Want to go, pretty boy?
Two minutes by yourself and you feel shame, you know, and then you get free.
The only thing better than a glass of beer is tea with Miss McGill.
And welcome to the Fourth Line Voice Podcast. My name is Darren. Thank you very much for tuning in. Episode 478 of The Big Show, some enforcer-based podcasting coming at you, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. How's everybody doing out there? Oh, I got a special guest for today. Former Saskatoon Blades defenseman, played in the East Coast League, took part in the inaugural Black and Blue Fight Tournament in Prince George in 2005. Is none other than Mark Raiter for Toronto Maple Leaf draft pick as well. And Mark was I was a big fan of Mark growing up. I got to see a lot of them in the early 90s playing with the Blades, and was always a tough dude, man. And he was nice enough to sit down and take a couple hours and share his journey with us. And it's definitely some ups and downs and everything, but it is the and he's doing great things now. So it was a lot of fun to sit down and talk with Mark. The last couple of years we've gone back and forth on phone calls. We met for supper here a while back, and it's been great getting to know him on a personal level. And good dude, getting met up at Ice Wars in Edmonton there, and it's been a lot of fun getting to know Mark, and I was really happy that he sat down and shared his story. So I think you guys will really dig it. But unfortunately, before we get into all that, unfortunately, some sad news this week. Hockey in the hockey world, we lost a couple people. I opened up social media today early in the morning, and I was reading, and I read about the unfortunate passing of Cam Brown, who was from Saskatoon here actually, and played in the IHL, played Brandon Wheat Kings growing up in the Western League, and then played in the IHL, and then played many years in the East Coast League with Baton Rouge and Gwinnett, and unfortunately this weekend he passed away in a motorcycle accident, and so that was my thoughts go out to his family and friends, and tragic. And I know Cam. I know I've had guys on this show. I never had a chance to meet Cam or speak with him, but I know I've had a number of guys on the podcast over the years. Nothing but great things to say about Cam Brown. Great teammate, great guy. I know I had talked to Garnet Jacobson. I know he. It hit him really hard. He had it was a real, and Miles Stays, I saw today talking that Cam was a real mentor to those guys, and as a veteran in the room, and really took care of the young guys, and they learned a lot from him, not just through hockey, but life, and anytime and then to tragically lose your life like that, it's always sad to hear. So rest in peace, Cam Brown. And then, unfortunately, earlier this week, the mailman, Jacques Mayotte, passed away. Of course, Jacques had a heart attack earlier this month, and couldn't bounce back, and passed away due to complications from that. So, but he had been battling a lot of health issues the last few years, and really sad to hear. I did have an opportunity to talk to Jacques over the years. Unfortunately, one of those things, we tried to set up an interview, and the timing just never really worked out, and unfortunately it never happened. But I know Alec, my co-host there at the Bruised and Battered Show, back when he was doing his original Five for Fighting podcast, I believe it's episode 15 or 17 around there, one early on, he interviewed Jacques. Really good interview, so if you want to go back and hear that and hear those stories. But actually, earlier this afternoon, I sat down and recorded with my friend Yuka from Finland. I want to again thank Yuka for taking the time out to because with the 8 or 9 hour time difference, it was really late there at night. But he wanted to definitely come out and share, because Yuka and Jacques have been friends for over like 2 decades, and had lots of conversations. And Yuka, you talk about finishing Jacques' book, and he had many hours of and he has tons of newspaper articles about Jacques. He's a real curator. Well, you guys know Yuka from the show here. His hockey fight knowledge is tremendous, second to none, and he has tons of archives and footage and newspaper clippings and articles, etc. And he has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on Jacques, and so he is he pulled a few of those out, and some quotes and that type of thing, and from conversations they had. And you and I recorded an episode that I will be playing next week. It'll be a Jacques Mayotte tribute episode, and and it was really great. And Yuka shares a lot of their conversations and Jacques' thoughts on things, and again, it was rushed because we wanted to get something out, and of course I'm going to Las Vegas next weekend, so we wanted to sort of do it in a timely manner at the same time. So, but we, timeline his career, talk about things, and and Yuka share some good stories. So I want to thank Yuka again for taking the time out to record that, and again, thoughts and sympathies to and condolences to Jacques' family and friends, and about 64 years old, and again too young for that. So unfortunately, yes, hockey has lost two Warriors this past week, and and so I wanted to mention that at the start of the show, and unfortunately, never like to have to start the show like that, but I wanted to pass that on and pass the condolences out there, and share that moment with two definitely hockey warriors that left it all on the ice for sure. So rest in peace, Cam Brown and Jacques Mayotte. But anyway, folks, I won't talk long because, like I said, Mark and I go for about 2.5 hours here. So the only thing I got to say is, as a member of the Hockey Podcast Network, I'm on the original content creator side myself, Joe Lazito, Terry Ryan. Check out Joe Lazito's show, part 2 with David Bruce, and Joe's always, you've heard me say that a million times, tremendous back catalog, Asham, Strudwig, Bolton, Mick Vakota, on and on. Actually, when recording with Yuka, he actually cites some of Joe's interviews with some of the guys, and brings up some quotes that some of the guys that Joe's interviewed over the years have to say about the mailman. So that was really cool. And but yeah, Joe's show is tremendous. Check it out. Also, my other podcast that I do, the Bruised and Battered Show, we just had our latest episode. We interviewed Jake Hamilton. Really great guest, shares some great stories. Really, really open, and it's a great show. And I had a lot of fun with Jay and Alec doing the show, the Three Stooges. And I always say it's Jay and Alec's show. I'm sort of just in the back seat chiming in, but have a lot of fun doing that. And we release episodes every Friday. And basically, it's a look at current minor league hockey, tough minor league hockey, and we cover all the lower minor leagues. And it's been a lot of fun. This is kind of our second season, so to speak. And it's the show's really growing, really catching on popularity. And also we have merchandise, not only for the Bruised and Battered, but the Fourth Line Voice. Yes, I have merchandise. So please check out Buckets Off Apparel, and go through that shop, and they have player t-shirts, and like I said, the Fourth Line Voice is in there, Bruised and Battered's in there. We've just uploaded a couple more shirts that I think the designs are really cool. It's kind of a spoof of the East Coast League logo, and the really cool thing is that Brock and Brittany, the owners of the company, they have made some shirts for Elias Thompson, Anthony Collins, Spencer Kennedy, and the players have hand in the design. And the cool thing is the players actually get all the proceeds to the shirts, which is really cool of Brock and Brittany to do. And because I mean, those guys, lower minor league guys, those guys are struggling, man. It's always it ain't an easy paycheck, and so any little bit helps for those cats. And yeah, so that's really cool that they're doing that, and I'm really happy to be a part of the Buckets Off apparel, and I'm really thankful to Brock and Brittany for including me on their website and the Fourth Line Voice show and the Bruised and Battered show. And yeah, they're great people, and yes, so please check out I'll put the link in the show description, and if you want to shop the store, I believe if you use the promo code FIGHT, you get 10% off. So check that out, and I know from some of the shirts are good. They're not just some knockoff Chinese Temu t-shirts. No, they're soft and great, and the label, and they're really well done. I'm not just saying that. It's we wanted to attach our name to like solid. We didn't, like I said, we didn't want some Temu bullshit or something on our, and put our name on it. No, this is legitimate, solid fabric and solid shirts and products. So we're really happy with it. So please, like I said, Buckets Off Apparel, check it out. And the link will be in the description. Use the promo code and check it out. But let's get into this, folks. We got to drop the ads on you. You got to pay some bills, right? DraftKings, check it out. I'm not even going to talk about the NFL today. Oh, horrendous. But how about them Blue Jays? 1-1 with the Dodgers. We're rolling. We'll see what happens here. They're in one. I like it. So we'll see what happens with the Jays. But anyway, speaking of being in one, We'll hit you with the DraftKings commercial. Again, hey, if you want to sign up, promo code THPN, great deal right now. But after that, my conversation with Mark Raiter. All right, guys, next weekend, the Jacques Bayat tribute episode with Yuka, and I hope you guys tune in. Also, while I'm thinking about social media, Facebook, Instagram, Fourth Line Voice, please check it out. Please check out my YouTube channel, Fourth Line Voice on YouTube. I have over 2,500 videos on there. But doing live streams on Friday night, spinning 9 o'clock Eastern, spinning the greatest hits, man, minor league, junior fights. Come check it. Come join us Friday nights. Actually, I think this weekend, this week, if I have time, I just kicked the corner of my desk, and that hurt like hell. Oof, that hurts. But I'm not going to pause it, folks. I'm going to play through pain here. Eesh. What was I saying? I threw myself off. It depends when we recorded the Bruised and Battered show, but might do a live stream on Thursday. Maybe we'll do Throwdown Thursday. We'll change up the days because Fridays seem to be busy. But plus, I think Thursday is like the one day of the week that there's no baseball game. But come check it out. Regardless, going forward, I like to do what I call Fighting Fridays. It's 9 o'clock Eastern. It's a live stream on my YouTube channel. And for about an hour and a half, play some old fights and some old junior clips and minor leagues. And we have a lot of fun. Join the chat. We drink some beers and bullshit. And it's cool. Could be a lot of Mayotte coming up here to tribute to Jacques. And I'll throw some Cam Brown in there as well. So please check it out. But follow me on social media for all that. I'll keep you updated. But all right. A little DraftKings, and let's get into it. This is my conversation with Mark Raiter. Thanks, guys.
And now, here's a word from our sponsor.
Hockey is back, and this season, DraftKings Sportsbook is the official sports betting partner of the NHL. Brings you all the speed, skill, and nonstop action that you love. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Fortunately, here in Saskatchewan, we have the fantasy option here, but we don't have the sportsbook option with DraftKings, unfortunately. But I've been doing these ads for a long time, and a lot of my listeners, friends, have signed up with DraftKings, and they love it. Honestly, prop bets are really solid. Odds are great. No problems with the bonuses getting paid. They've never had an issue with DraftKings. It's the preferred sports book for a lot of my friends. So, so I have no problem endorsing it. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available from problem gambling. Call 888-78-9-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right, here on the Fourth Line Voice of a special guest. Long time coming. We've been setting this up for a while, but here he is. Western Hockey League, Saskatoon Blades defenseman, played a couple years in pro, black and blue tournament. We're going to talk about it all. But Mark Raiter is on the line. Mark, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you so much. And like you said, yeah, it's been a while coming, but so thank you for your patience. It's taken me a while to get the gumption to do this, let's say.
Wow, no, man, it was cool. And like you said, you were coming through town there about a month back. We hung out, had some dinner, and went over a few things, and yeah, man, no, this will be fun. Like I said, this is kind of right in my Saskatoon Blades wheelhouse. I watched you play a lot back in the day, and it's going to be fun to go down memory lane here.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. Surprise me with whatever you got.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do here. But folks, and those listening, obviously how we do it around here, going to timeline Mark's career and go through the season with the Blades. We'll talk about some teammates, some opponents, and all that kind of thing. And then at the end, we'll get to the infamous black and blue tournament in Prince George, and then we will end with Mark's latest venture. It's a foundation, and we'll talk all about that as well. So, but well, we got to start at the beginning, where we always do. Where were you born and raised? Where did you play your minor hockey?
Born in Calgary, Alberta. Moved to Fort McMurray shortly thereafter. Then, before the age of 5, our family moved to Leduc, Alberta, and that's where I grew up. And I just recently moved back here about 4 years ago, and I'm proud to call it home again. There
we go. Well, when you get on the you're a big dude, right? So I imagine growing up, were you like the biggest guy in class all the time and all that stuff? When you got on the rink, I have one friend of mine, Kippy. We like to go by. Actually, Kippy was at that black and blue tournament. But anyways, his mom is wonderful at taking pictures, and there's many pictures of scanning the blue line as Adams or Pee-wees, and there's all these kids, and then from the elbow down or from the elbow up is me, right? So, yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, I was always bigger than the rest of the kids. So, and just like any size, it comes with its positives and its negatives. Yeah, well, and so obviously taking your hockey journey and you're getting going and up to AAA and all that stuff. But before that, were you, and obviously you're known as a tough guy and, an enforcer and all that. But were you kind of drawn to the physical side of hockey, or did that come later, or was it something, or you're the big guy, so you're the physical guy? Like, was that sort of just thrust upon you, or was that a role that you wanted to do?
I would actually say it was more thrust upon me. Earlier on in my years, like most guys, I was the guy that had a little bit of skill. Used to go on, as a D-man, I used to go on my coast-to-coast rushes, as we would call them back in the day. I don't know if they still call them that, but anyways, yeah. But then once I got a little older, in the Bantam, when it really started becoming noticeable, and some of the coaches really encouraged me to start taking on a different look, if you will. So I wouldn't say that I embraced it. Sometimes I was singled out because of it, if you will. But again, it was something that, again, once I started figuring out how to use my size to my advantage, by the advice of a lot of people, some tricks of the trades here and there. But just even, just the whole skating ability. Once I started getting those in line, things started getting a lot better.
Well, yeah, and again, we're talking, late 80s, early 90s. So, I mean, obviously there was that role was very prominent, obviously, in hockey at the time. And, you get a guy, young kid, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", big D-man. It's like, there was sort of... It was almost like it was the rite of passage. Like that was what you were going to get. That's what you were going to be. that label got put on
Yeah.
you regardless, right?
Yeah, and I'm not the only big guy that faced that. But when we were all playing street hockey back in the day, we were all Mark Messier or Wayne Gretzky.
Yep.
Not too many of us were boasting about, as much as we loved them, we weren't saying, hey, I'm Dave Semenko or I'm Kevin McClelland, or do you know what I mean? So not to take away from any of those guys' skills and abilities, but again, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, 88-89, you play AAA in St. Albert. 32 games, 12 points, 200 minutes of penalties. So, we're starting to, in AAA, we're starting to kind of, kind of get rolling with the roll. But looking at that team, a couple interesting teammates. Dean McCammon and Paxton Schulte. They didn't have bad careers, those two cats.
No. Dean McCammon is always, even though we played against each other when he was in Prince Albert and I was in Saskatoon, what a competitor, but just an awesome guy off the ice. I can't say more nice things about Dean McCammon and his family. And as far as Paxton Schulte goes, like, that guy was just a monster. Like, I have big hands I'm 6'5", 270 pounds, but this man, like, he was like throwing round bales, not square bales, but round hay bales. He was just so strong. And I'll never forget the year that Nedved came over during an exhibition game when he was with the Czech select team, and Paxton came out of the penalty box and just tattooed him. Nedved never seen the ice again that night. So anyways, there you go, Paxton, little plug for you. Good memories.
There you go. Yeah, there's another cat. I've talked to him a bunch of times on Facebook, and I know he was on my friend's podcast a few years ago. But yeah, I got to get him back on the podcast because, I mean, had the run there in the American League a little bit. It was a high pick. It just kind of didn't pan out for him. But he ended up going over to Europe, and in the UK, he was a hero in Belfast, man. Like, that guy had a run over in the Elite League that the fans still talk about that over there. So yeah, I got to get him on the show, but man, I was kind of going.
He was a likable guy.
Yeah,
he was a likable guy, so none of that surprises me.
Yeah, well, and then just going through the league at the time that you played it's interesting, some of the names. I mean, you had Chris Osgood, Net, and Medicine Hat, but just some tough guys like Daniluk, Mike Rourke, Troy Hurtis, Jamie Linden, Jamie Pusher. They were all in that AAA league with you at that time. So a pretty strong league, man, coming out of that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And like you said, it was a stepping stone. You see that I was starting to accumulate some penalty minutes there. So we were still investigating, being a little more physical. So it was a stepping stone. And then the next year, obviously, had some challenges to face there in Saskatoon.
Well, yeah, so that's the thing. And back then, of course, there was no WHL draft, so teams would list guys. So obviously before that, you were listed by Saskatoon. So you go to camp, 89-90, go to camp, 16 years old. You make the team. Were you surprised to make the team? Like, did they kind of tell you, like, this is how it's, like, were you, like, how, well, obviously your camp must have went good. You made the team, but, like, were you surprised by it?
No, not, well, if what they were saying was true the whole time, because I was protected by them since the age of 13, I believe. So for the 3 years, they were in contact with me. I was always at a bunch of their camps, so they were a part of the development process, and they were very confident in that I was going to make that team. Again, that was after they hosted the Memorial Cup, so there was a lot of slots to be filled. Yeah, on that team. So I guess that was probably one of my saving graces, if you will. But yeah, no, I wasn't surprised, but I was certainly excited. There's no doubt, right? When you cross that line and you're accepted into that room, it's a stepping stone to your ultimate dream.
Yeah, and like you said, kind of going into that. I mean, I'm sure it was probably laid out to you, kind of, expectations maybe, and like, did you have any camp fight? Like, you said you had gone to a couple other camps leading up to that. Had you been in a few camp fights, or were you still kind of hesitant, or
there was a few camp fights. Yeah, some of the guys dropped the lids, some of the guys just charged at you. So when you're 14, 15, it's a real feeling out process. But so when I finally got into main camp in the fall of 1989, It was still, again, now is going to be taking on guys older than me, more experienced than me. So it wasn't really an exciting thing to look forward to, right? Especially when it's thrown upon a young person like that, like how it was with me. I was pretty much told to do it, and so I think I responded accordingly.
Yeah, and I mean, and of course, the head coach at the time was Terry Ruskowski, of course, legendary. Had a great pro career, tough guy. Like no one is a tough guy. Roscoe. I noticed. I didn't realize that. I just noticed the assistant coach was Don Atchison, of course, former mayor of Saskatoon, would go on to be the mayor of Saskatoon, and Jerome Engel, who's been there forever. Chief of, I don't think he was ever chief of police, but he was obviously a police officer for years, and an NHL player and a tough guy in his own right. Yeah, like looking at that team that year, there was, like you said, there was a bunch of Derek Tibbetts, Richard Matvichuk, yourself, Sean Yakimishin. All you guys were rookies heading into that year. Mark Watton, there you go, another guy. Of course, your team leading scorer, Jason Christie, Smurf, of course, that would go on to play in the minors for a long time and coach, and Scott Sissons, David Strush. But yeah, veteran guys like Sean Snezar, Jeff Buchanan, guys like that. Again, tough D-men. Grant Chorney later in the year. Oh. Did these guys help you out at all? And did you look to? Well, I should say before we even get going, man, you talk about snake bit. I've never going through the newspaper clippings. I don't know how many injuries you had that year, but you. Shoulder and ankle and foot, and I mean, you had a rough year. Like anything that could go wrong went wrong, and you 14 games. You're injured most of the year. How? Well, I guess we'll start. I'm sorry, man. I'm bouncing all over the place on you, but how frustrating was that at the time? You're a rookie. You make the team, so all right, here we go. And you're trying to make an impression, and it's just injury after injury.
Yeah, well, my first year, again, like you said, I played 14 games, so I severely dislocated my left shoulder, so we had to go under the knife and get surgery. And back in those days, that surgery was quite invasive. So it was not, like, I still wasn't at 100% the following fall. And then the fall came in, and I got into a couple of tussles and broke my jaw, and then came back from that. And then about 5 games later, I was starting to feel comfortable, and then I blocked a slap shot and broke a bone in my foot. And then by the time that foot injury was healed, I had a little bit of a stint still with Roscoe, Terry Ruskowski. But then he was shortly removed after that. I don't want to talk bad about anyone, but there's no good memories of Terry Ruskowski. That guy was not a very nice man to me. When your coach kind of swings his stick in your face to single you out in front of your peers, you don't really have too many good things to say about him. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yep. But that first year, I was telling you before we got going, one of the traditions back then was the Blades would play the Winnipeg Jet rookies. And I was reading the article, and you took on one Jets rookie, Brian Marchment. 16-year-old Mark Raiter taking on Brian Marchment in the Blades Jets rookie game. Do you remember that? Do you remember playing the Jets at all in those games?
I did. Now that you put it in those words, yeah, I do slightly remember it, and I believe that he pretty much started with me. But again, I'm 6'4", 220 some pounds. Like, no one probably believed that I was 16 years old, right?
No, yeah.
So it wasn't. There was no ill will. I don't think I fared very well. But at the end of the day, it was. It was what it was, right? It was kind of fun to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, and like I said at the start with some of these veteran guys that, of course, went on and played in the minors and stuff, that, tough D-men like Sean Snezar and Chorney and Jeff Buchanan. Do you have any memories of those guys?
Yeah. John Snezar, he was a pretty cool cat. I liked him. Chorney, monster of a man. Like, the guy should have been a bodybuilder. He was just so big you couldn't move him. But I think the guy that had the biggest influence on any part of my career, even as when I started becoming a better player, not just a fighter, was Jeff Buchanan. Jeff Buchanan was good enough that he pulled me aside on a few occasions and, just kind of gave me some advice on how mentally to approach the fights. And, gave me some tricks from a lefty that pretended to be a good righty, if you will, from Jeff Buchanan. He was quite a smart young man.
Do you got any memories of Jason Christie?
I'll just say that all I know and need to know about Jason Christie is that he's from Gibbons, Alberta, and we'll leave it at that.
There we go. Yeah.
He was a fan favorite, but we'll just leave it at that. Just because we're teammates doesn't mean we all liked each other.
No, there you go. Well, like I said, that first year, frustrating and stuff. But I know one of the articles, you're not going to mention it, so I'll say it because I was reading the articles. But one of the things, and it seemed to, from reading the articles and everything, that carried on throughout your career and has carried on throughout your life. You did a lot of work with the Special Olympics. I read in that article at Marion Graham. How important was that to you at the time, or it still is?
Unfortunately, I wasn't much of a person to bury his nose into the books and learn, so it wasn't a career path just because of that learning ability or disability, if you will, on my own part. But those memories are so near and dear, and actually, with how rough that my first season was going, with a lot of the stuff as far as being a rookie, and how the veterans and the coach and the general manager were treating me at that time. I had the opportunity to go and work with the kids, and that was just such a bright light for me. It helped me so much off the ice, and started to build a community for myself, because hockey, after a short period of time and being a young person, homesick, all those things, man. So by Christmas time, I was already working with the kids, I believe, and it was just so many good memories. Had the opportunity to go and help out with a couple of Special Olympics at the provincial end after doing a couple of the zones, one at the Saskatoon level. So nothing but good memories, man. It really just puts things into perspective when you work with people that don't have nothing to complain about.
100%. Absolutely. No, for sure. And and like you said, and that's the other thing that I think that we should definitely stress on the listeners too, is like, these young guys because everybody sees just the guys out in the ice and these teenage hockey phenoms that are playing and everything. These guys are many hours from home a lot of times, and they're living with a whole new billet family that, that could be rough, man, when you're 16, 17, 18, and you're leaving home for the first time, and you're stuck in a strange city and don't know anybody, and you're with a billet family. And how was your billet experience and everything in Saskatoon?
I was very lucky in that way up until my final season, but that's a whole story on its own, right? But my first 2 years, they were wonderful people. Eric Gosling was his name, and like I said, just wonderful people. They allow you in their homes, but they did nothing wrong. Like you said, we're young kids and we're very uncomfortable, moving away from home and all the homesick. So, most billets have nothing but great intentions. So I was very lucky for the most part that I had some wonderful people that are willing to put a roof over my head.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like we were saying, right? You're away from home. You're a teenager, so you got all those angst that go with that. That growing up's hard, right? And teenager, new high school, new surroundings, and it's like, and I think a lot of times that I think as fans, people don't understand, right? Like these aren't because they look at major junior hockey and it's like they almost look at it like it's like a professional kind of thing, right? And it's like these guys aren't men, they're not professionals, they're teenagers, right? And it's like and they're going through everything that your kid at home is going through that doesn't play hockey, right? And you know how angry teenagers are. Well, now you put the pressure of major junior hockey onto these people. It's like that's a lot, man.
Well, and especially in the smaller markets that have just solely a junior hockey franchise, like the Saskatoon Blades are to Saskatoon as the Oilers are to Edmonton.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
They're making front page every day. So you got your 16-year-old person, your name's either being positively written about or negatively written about, and so things can either be good or very bad. Right, and everything in between. So, a good thing that there's a lot of people that are willing to put roofs over their heads for these young people and trying to make that transition as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said, so that, first year pretty rough. 90-91, you come back, you played 35 games, a little, again, injury bug and everything, but coming back, Ruskowski's still there. I guess I'm trying to, we're going back a long time, but trying to put you in that mindset. When you came back, like you said, the shoulder was still kind of lingering, the injury and everything. But had you, again, were you kind of confident that you were going to make the team, or was it sort of like, I don't know, after last year, did you know where you stood with Roscoe? Like, did he kind of tell you on the as the exit interview goes, did they say anything to you, or was it like, we'll see what happens?
Well, I went in the frame of mind that I had a spot on the team. Yeah. Right? So I don't remember anything really being said. And my rookie year, again, I was injured. So injured guys really become alienated, at lack of a better word, because, they're the Band-Aids. So they're practicing at different times. You might cross paths with your teammates at school. But you're not practicing with them. So it's difficult nonetheless. So there wasn't really a lot of communication other than with management on my rehab process and stuff like that. So, when I came in the following fall of 1990, I was just completely under the impression that I had a spot on the team and I wasn't being told any different. Right?
Yeah.
So, so as far as, there's still a few guys because the game's played that wanted to still treat me as a rookie. And that was about the time that I started standing up for myself and just telling guys that those actions are not going to be considered.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this was did you break your jaw in PA in a fight this year?
No, I can't remember the young man. He was from Saskatoon. We squared off in camp. And I remember having a sore jaw. And then Darren Perkins and Darren Perkins, a local guy from Alberta here of Wetaskiwin, which is just 30 clicks out of Leduc here. We grew up playing against each other. So he was a big kid. He played in Prince Albert. And that was during an exhibition game in the fall. So, I didn't even have a chance to play any league games yet. And then my jaw gets broken. So I was wired shut for 4 weeks and then had to build up some muscle and weight again after that. So I didn't believe I didn't get back on the ice until late November, early December.
Well, I know, and as far as some of the names that, get Strush and Sissons and Tibbetts and Matt Fachuk and Yakimishin and those characters. But one of the guys that actually played, I completely forgot that he had played for the Blades was Jared Bednar. Of course, the NHL coach. He played this year. He played 28 games and another cat that he played 5 WHL games for the listeners out there that will know the last name Brookbank, because of course Wade and Sheldon played in the NHL, but their older brother Lee played 5 games with the Saskatoon Blades that year, and word is that Lee was the toughest out of all of them. But he would go on and play in Yorkton in the SJHL and pick up 400 minutes of penalties that year. But he did play briefly with Saskatoon as well. But going back to this season, do you remember Jared Bednar? And well, obviously you remember him, but
yeah, I do. Jared was such a good guy, such a unique character, right?
Yeah.
Almost skater dude, if you will, right? Smart skater dude. Like, he just had a lot of skill. Pretty much only spoke when spoken to is what I can remember of the guy. But when he did speak, he had a lot to offer. I really enjoyed him. I remember him very well. I really enjoyed him and his company. He was a good guy. I'm very happy for all of his successes. Like, when you put in all those sweat and tears to where he's gotten, that's pretty cool.
No, absolutely. And a couple, just kind of looking at the blue line, of course, you have Jeff Buchanan still back there, and another guy that actually doesn't get talked about a lot. But in terms of, he's one of those guys that, played his seasons in the Western League, and then that was it. Didn't go on to play pro or anything. Was Rob Lalisher.
Rob Lalisher. He ended up the year that we made it to the Memorial Cup Finals in '92. He was traded to, not the Memorial Cup Finals, the WHL Finals. He was traded to Kamloops that year. And I remember shaking hands with Rob after we lost to them in Game 7. And Rob was crying as much as we were for the loss. He was crying, and he was on the winning team. And I tell you that story just to show the character of Rob Lalisher. I have nothing but good memories of Rob Lalisher. Even being a veteran towards me, he was a very good guy. All of his intentions were good. If he was able to achieve them or not, you just knew that he had your best interest in mind.
No, absolutely. Yeah, he was a tough dude, man, back in the day. And, one of those guys that unfortunately, kind of really before, there's no video or there's no YouTube or internet or, so he kind of one of those guys that kind of goes under the radar from fans, right? That they don't, but yeah, absolutely. Well, another guy that was a rookie on that team and ended up playing, all the years in Saskatoon and then would go on and play many years in the East Coast League was Shane Calder.
Yes, Shane Calder. Shane Calder and I were actually pretty good buddies back in the day. The year that my hockey career went to shit, I actually went and played for his dad out in Port of the Prairie. Wonderful family. And Shane Calder in the Saskatoon Blades dressing room, him and I sat right down next to each other. And I'll tell you what, if you wanted to meet a guy that had the ultimate compete, well, that was Shane Calder. He hated it so much if you wore your ball cap improperly. That's how much this guy was just, he was very intense, if you will, right? And nothing but good memories of Shane. Off the ice more, on the ice, just a guy that he was middleweight at best, but he would go at anybody. If someone turned the wrong eye on him, he would take note. He would take that number and he'd go at him. And he'd go at him even if the guy wasn't ready for it or not. Like, if you pissed Shane Calder off, he was going to let you know. No one had to jump in for Shane Calder, that's for sure. A lot of fun memories with Shane.
Yeah, well, he was very reminiscent to me of another guy that was on the team too, Sean Yakimishin. Like, both of those guys, undersized guys, but just go at guys, right?
Yeah,
like, would fight everybody.
Built differently. So Shane had, I think he maxed out at 6 foot, maybe 6'1", but he had arms as long as a guy that was 6'5". And then Sean Yakimishin was the complete opposite. He was just a tank with little Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. But if he got you on the inside, man, like, that was the thing. One time we almost went at her during an inter-squad game, and he tried to get on the inside on me, and I just pulled him in close, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You think I'm fucking stupid or what?" But yeah, no, Sean Yakimishin, he was a tank, that guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just being from Saskatoon and watching you guys play all this time, and just like I said, preparing for this interview and stuff, and just going through the newspaper clippings and reading the rosters and stuff. I mean, this is you and I are about the same. So I was kind of basically the same age. You guys are a couple years older than me, but basically, this was kind of, it's all familiar to me because I watched all these games, right? So going through these, Dean Rambo and Gaetan Bluan, who I worked at the Saskatoon Casino with Gaetan Bluan, and just like Darren Bader, like just these names that are like for old Saskatoon fans. Yeah. I'm throwing out names that they, probably have forgot. Well, it was 30 years ago, right? So yeah, no, that's a good list. Yeah. Well, and then one guy that this year that he played 9 games because he was 15, but of course would go on to be, have some of the most games played in Saskatoon Blades hit was, of course, Paul Buchkowski. What were your first impressions of Butch?
Won't take no for an answer, right?
Yeah.
Won't take no for an answer. Like that guy, he was a local prodigy, if you will, as far as, he was a great BMX biker back in the day.
Yeah.
Just an all-around athlete. And then to see him on the ice and compete, guy, because he was, stature-wise, he wasn't that tall. But I think he had the biggest legs that I've ever seen. And like I said, just the guy that didn't take no for an answer. And so he's going to go through you instead of around you. And if he had to go around you, he could do that too. Right. So, he left a pretty decent impression on me on how just to keep the nose going forward.
Yeah. Well, another guy, obviously, on D back then, it of course go on to play 800 NHL games and win Stanley Cups. And you guys, same age, is Richard Matvichuk. Back then, when you guys were coming up and starting, did you see it? Like, if somebody said that guy's going to play 800 NHL games and win a Stanley Cup, would you have believed it?
Well, let's just put it this way. I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But, again, just because we're teammates doesn't mean we all got to like each other. Like, I knew Richard even previous to making Saskatoon. He was like me. He was protected by Saskatoon for many years. So we kind of went through the ranks together and stuff. And another one of those things. Nothing nice to say. I won't say nothing at all.
Well, there we go. Okay. All right, we're back. Yeah, I got interviews. Phones ringing. Wife's phoning. Yeah, parent-teacher interviews tonight. Oh, I'm sure that went over really well. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. But yeah, and again, I got to say, because this is where a former guest of the show and good dude, but this is kind of where the rivalry started. It was his first year in the league, and you guys played Moose Jaw many times, and you had many run-ins with Kent Staniforth of the Moose Jaw Warriors. What are your and I know you guys fought a whole bunch of times. Some of those fights are on Fourth Line Voice YouTube channel. What are your memories of Kent Staniforth?
Good. Even though the guy punched me in the head probably a dozen times. Good. Can't really live by the tough guy rule. No fucking around. You know what? You ask the question, you're gonna go. If not, there's no fucking funny stuff, if you will. But my favorite memory of Ken Staniforth was actually a fight that we had in Saskatoon. I remember it going on forever. It was probably it was at least a minute, if it was a second. And by the end of the fight, I remember him going down to his knees and me pretty much leaning on the top of his head like he was a fence post. Like, that's how tired we were, right? And then he went to the dressing room. I went to the penalty box. And I don't know if he was concussed or not. He can tell you that end of it. But I know he didn't return to the game. But he was waiting for me outside of the dressing room after the game. And he was waiting for me to shake my hand and congratulating me on the fight. And I just never seen or had that experience before in my life, So he was such an excellent guy. I hope to cross paths with him one day again. Just for that reason, like, as such a competitor, as such a fighter. Lauren Mulliken came from Moose Jaw as assistant coach to Saskatoon as a head coach. Lauren Malkin was the guy that gave me a chance. I could only wish the same thing that would have happened to Kent, but unfortunately, that wasn't in the cards for him. Because if I believe if someone actually gave that young man a chance, he would have went a lot farther.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it was interesting with this year. Of course, this was the year that Spokane would go on and win the Memorial Cup, and the Pat Falloon and Whitney and those guys tearing it up. But there was a character on that team that everybody knows, of course, Kerry Toporowski. And this is the year that he had 505 minutes and penalties. And you rumbled with him a couple times in Spokane.
Yeah. No, to be honest with you, that was the same year that I came back from, that was the half year. So that was the year that I came back from the broken jaw and then the broken foot.
Yeah.
So this would have been in the latter part of the year. So I was still finding my ground. So they were not highlight fights by any means, but I guess what I proved to myself is that I was willing to get back in the ring again. So yeah, those are actually pretty interesting memories. He's an interesting guy, I know that for sure, man. He wasn't letting me go without fighting him. He was standing right in the doorway for me to go off the ice. And the door was open and he wasn't letting me through it. So I was like, okay, let's do this. So yeah, that was probably the better one of the two, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, he's a character, man. And another guy, and of course, then the guy that finished second in the lead that year in penalty minutes, again, another minor league legend that people will know the name, John Baduke. Well, you fought him too. Do you remember that fight with Baduke?
Yeah. See, now, again, true tough guy rule, right? All my memories of Baduke was just competing against that guy, actually laughing because he's the guy that I think taught me how to talk during the game. You know, as an opponent, I just kind of took notice of that, how he was just kind of nonchalantly giving me an elbow to the face and saying something derogatory at the same time. So he's quite an amusing character. But one thing I do remember of him is a beast, right? Usually with my size at a young age, I had the ability to usually wrestle guys pretty good. Not Baduke, man. Where that guy stood is where he stayed.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, just kind of like, you know, you go through the rosters and the team that you would have played a lot, you know, like Medicine Hat. I mean, they, you know, and man, I mean, you just look at Jason Prasovsky, Dan Kordick, Clayton Norris on that team, Lauren Taze, like, yeah, man, these teams were just so tough back then. Yeah. Brent Thompson, there's the other one, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, you knew when you were going in or they were coming into your facility, Medicine Hat, right? I fought Norris a couple times, fared pretty well. But that was after I really started gaining my own ground and confidence there. Never did have a chance to go with Dan and Kordick. And I don't know if that would have been a good thing or a bad thing, right? We'll never know. And Jason Prasovsky, I think I wrestled with him a couple of times. But that guy was a man-child, right? I'm sure that guy had hair on his chest when he was 3 years old.
Oh, yeah, we were laughing because it's like if you go back and like look at the hockey cards that came out back then, oh, yeah, the guy's got, it looks like he's 35, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
But I trained with him a little bit in Calgary there, and he was actually just no different than anyone else, right? You get out of your own environment and you meet these people as individuals. And I remember Jason actually being a very polite man, a polite young man, if you will. Yeah.
Well, and of course the big rivalry always with the Regina Pats, Regina Saskatoon, right? And of course Regina had Mike Sillinger went on to have a great NHL career and 57 games, 116 points, 50 goals that year. It's like, but another guy that was on that team that I had on the show, and he's still in Regina. He's a Regina city cop, and was a really great guest and just a tank, man, when he played. Frank Kovacs. What are your memories of playing against Frank Kovacs?
Still big man.
Oh,
guy
yeah.
could skate like the wind, actually, right?
Yeah.
Very skilled. So when it came to Frank, he picked his times, and he earned that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they needed him on the ice more than dropping his gloves. But when he did choose to drop his gloves, he fared very well. And I don't know if maybe your stats, you can see it there. I don't know if I ever did fight him.
No.
I know I wrestled with him a few times. But and he was also involved in the Special Olympics. So I got to meet him off the ice as well at one of the provincial Special Olympics that we represented. He represented the Regina, and I represented Saskatoon. And my memories of him, again, off the ice, he was just a polite young man.
Yeah, no, yeah. Kovacs, he's cool as shit. Yeah. Well, another guy I know you had a bit of a run-in because I read the article because you speared the shit out of him was Louis Dumont.
Louis Dumont, yeah. Well, again, the smaller guys tend to run their mouths a lot, right? And if you can't catch them, you got to use the thing that gives you the most advantage, and that's usually your stick.
Yep.
So I couldn't catch the little pricks, so I decided to fucking give him a little taste of my stick, if you will.
Yeah. There you go, Louis Dumont.
Yeah.
He is the East Coast Hockey League, I believe. He's their all-time scoring leader.
He was a skilled young man, that's for sure.
Yes, he was. Well, another guy on that team that was a bad dude, man. He was a big cat. Greg Pankowitz.
Oh, Panky, yeah. I think Pankowitz is from the city here. Same with the Duke. I remember hanging out with those guys. Cam Moon, our goaltender, he eventually went to Saskatoon and backed up Osgood there in Medicine Hat from Saskatoon. Sorry. Cam Moon was a local Edmonton boy. So a couple of Christmases in a row, I would go and have a few cocktails with them up in the city and met up with those guys. And Krasovsky, good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was interesting, like going through these old rosters and stuff. Yeah, well, I think I asked you. Another guy that I had on the show a while back was Dan Kopech, and he played in Brandon. And there was another guy in Brandon, Glenn Webster. Glenn Webster, Kent Staniforth puts Webster over huge about how badass he was. Do you remember playing against him?
Yeah, never did actually go Webster, but Webster came with a name, yeah. Probably how Kent described him. Webster came with a name that, there was a mean streak in that guy for sure. I never did go Webster. I went Kopech. Kopech didn't fare very well. No, he was rambling at the mouth about being the belt, wearing the heavyweight belt, if you will. So I had to... unfortunately, Kopech, I had to show you that you were not.
Well, and that year, that was the year Lethbridge had the real strong team. They finished for 45-21, and Jason Ruff and Rubachuk and Kevin St. Jacques and Peacock and Hartnell and all those guys and Jason Sorkin and Jamie Pusher was on that team. And do you remember some of the battles against Pat Pilipuke? You remember some of those battles against Lethbridge?
And I love how you just get pulling down memory lane here, man. Yes. I didn't really get into too many tussles, previous to the Brant Meyer years. But yeah, no, they didn't really have to. They were such a skilled, fast team. They almost reminded back in the day, like if you played any French. Against the French skaters back in the day, they were just straight line speed, and that's what Lethbridge was very good at. And I'll tell you what, who'd you say?
Kevin St. Jacques.
Kevin St. Jacques. I blocked one of his slap shots one time and caught it at the top of the knee. I don't know how I was walking after that, man. He even came up to me and said, "Raiter, what the fuck were you doing? Like, why are you blocking that?" Yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah, well, and folks, that's the thing. Jason Ruff at 61 goals and Rubachuk at 64. That's the same team, man. Well, how's Rubachuk? Yeah. 64 goals, 68 assists, and 237 minutes of penalties. What?
Yeah, and see that year I was still. I think that would have been my second year that I only played not even 40 games that year, right? So
yeah, that was your second year. Yeah. Oh, I'm rambling. We're still in the second year. We haven't even got to the good one yet. Oh, yeah, we'll get there. I just like going down these damn rosters and throwing out names. It cracks me up. Like how.
Yeah. Good memory. Yeah, and like I said, most of those guys that you brought up, I've had an opportunity to meet them off the ice. If it was just for a short period of time, and sometimes you learn so much about a person in a short period of time just by their willingness to give you time, right?
Yep.
So yeah, most of those guys are pretty good people.
Well, we'll get into it now. Okay, so 91-92 is a big year for Mark Raiter. Lots of shit happens this year. You get drafted, the whole 9 yards, but you play a full season, 72 games, 14 points, 354 minutes and penalties. Then you guys have the huge playoff run. You make it all the way to the final, and of course you run into the dynasty team of the Kamloops Blazers, but you go 7 games, 22 playoff games. You play in all of them. Lauren Mulligan's now coaching. Going into that camp, obviously you're healthy going into that camp. When you knew that there was a new coach, like when Lauren Mulligan was the coach, obviously, did you kind of have was it almost like, okay, here we go. Now we're going to get going here. Now it's a fresh start, new start, or were you sort of like, let's see what happens? Or what were your feelings going into this season, the 91-92 season?
Yeah, well, Hoffman that filled in for Rostowski for the latter part of the year, I was a huge fan of his because the guy gave me an opportunity. Not just to go out there and fight, but he gave me an opportunity to play. So I was hoping that he'd come back. So when he decided not to, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I remember that summer doing a lot of thinking if I was going to ask for to be relocated or not. But then the new coach, Lauren, gets announced, and short into camp, Lauren pulled me aside because he could see the relationship or the volatile relationship encouraged by my general manager to myself wasn't a good one. So Lauren was good enough to pull me up in the stands one time, just himself and I. And he said to me, he said, Raiter, he even said something about Kent. I remember that. He said something about Kent Staniforth, about wishing that he could have given him an opportunity. So he said to me that if I give him 110%, he's going to give me the opportunity to play. So that right there was just the trajectory of everything good that happened in that season for me. He was such a motivator. He gave me the confidence to go out there and become a better hockey player. And then with that support, because all the tough guys, you guys all know out there that it can be a very lonely job, and a job that comes with unrealistic expectations from guys that don't fight, that share the same dressing room with you. So sometimes your willingness isn't completely there because you're like, why do I need to fucking fight for these assholes? But Lauren made me think differently, and he allowed me to grow into myself and really become a part of the team. I would like to think a respected part of the team, but a guy that was willing to go out there and put my nose on the line for the boys, right? And the better I got, the more comfortable I got, and the more, like I said, the willingness was really there. Again, I fought guys that I never thought I would, and I fared very well against guys that I thought I would never even drop the gloves with, and all because of a vote of confidence from one individual, and that was Lauren Mulligan.
Yeah, well, and like we said, it definitely. Well, before we got going, like when we were talking about like what a real special team it was that year, and it was interesting because it's not, you didn't have the 60 goal guy, you didn't have the big, it was like just a bunch of, like the leading scorer was Ryan Fujita, 82 points, then Tibbetts 74, Calder 73, Glenn Gulletson 73. Mark Franks 58, Strush 55, then Buchanan and Matvechuk and Yakimishin, James Startup, right? Like it's just a bunch of lunch pail guys basically, right? And just kind of, a tough team. Yeah. I mean, then you guys later on in the season, you pick up Jason Knight and Terrence Sandwith and just like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Andy McIntyre from Seattle, who became, big goal scorer, and
some good pieces, for sure,
Well, another guy was
Durant Sandwith was my favorite. Durant Sandwith, he was my favorite. That guy, I'll never forget, but he came from Brandon to us for future considerations, which ended up being Trevor Robbins. But anyways, Turan, he came in the dressing room. He ended up sitting like right beside me, I believe. And just when you connect, like him and I, just right off the get-go, I was like very pleased to meet you. And his look on his face, because Brandon wasn't a good team, and he knew he was coming to a better team, possibly a contender. But just the look of joy on his face, I'll never forget. And it was, him and I still keep in contact here and there once in a while. So Turan is one of my favorite memories for sure.
Well, and like you were saying before we got going, this was kind of, we'll get into the playoff run in a bit here, but I got, as we'll talk as the season goes. Now, like you said, you played every game, you're engaged, you're involved, Mulligan's playing you. When you sat in this dressing room, you're looking at the guys and you're playing, did you sense that this was kind of a special group? Like, did you think you were going to make the big run, or was it sort of like, we'll see?
No, yeah, we knew that we were better than previous years. I will say that. But again, under the tutelage of Lord Mulligan, Lauren was such an emotional guy in such a positive way. Like his before the game speeches was such a made up motivational thing, and he's kind of a out of the box thinker. I remember him bringing in the sports psychologist to talk to us as a team. And I remember after that sports psychologist, so that was about halfway through the year, and the belief really started gaining momentum. And Lauren was one of these guys that he was a teacher of the game. Like I was telling you previous to us chatting here, like he was a guy that really did the hockey X's and O's, and not only did it on the chalkboard, but walked us through the paces on the ice and got us involved as a team, as individuals in the decision-making process. I'll never forget when we were playing Swift Current in the playoffs. They had such a unique umbrella power play that he actually solicited our input as a team. And we came up with, as a team, on the best way to defend that. And again, the short of the long of it is that, Lauren was such an educator and allowed us to be students of the game. So when we're learning together, we gain the ability to think together, to really work as a unit together. So I think that's, probably about 3/4 way through the season is when there was starting to be a belief.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing was that year, I mean, again, the big rival with Prince Albert, and like Prince Albert was like running show that year. Like they were 50-20, and like, what a great team, and just kind of go down that team, right? Like Jeff Nelson, Donovan Hextall, Lee J. Leslie, Dan Kessa, Dave Nielsen, Darren Van Imp. Like you guys had some battles against them, man. Troy Hurtis.
Well, so we were on I can't remember, I think we were on quite a bit of a losing skid. It was maybe even upwards of 5-game losing skid. And Prince Albert, like you said, they were the team to beat that year. And they were coming into our barn. And I remember tossing and turning the night before. And David Nielsen was a pretty big cat, too. The guy threw both really well. So you have to be on your game when you're going to take on David Nielsen. And again, I'm thinking about this all night. So previous to the game, I walked into Lauren's office before warm-up, and he goes, "What can I do for you, Raiter?" And I looked at him and said, "David Nielsen starts, I start. If David Nielsen doesn't start, as soon as his skates hit the ice, so do mine." And he kind of had his head down on the table, and this is how I remember it, and he looks up at me and he goes, "I'll see what I can do." And then he, before the game, usually when you announce the starting lineup, usually the goaltender is mentioned last. Well, I guess the PA had David Nielsen starting. So before that game, Lauren said, "Trevor Robbins in net," and the fifth and last guy to be announced was myself, Mark Raiter. So before the puck dropped, I'm lined up on right D, and David Nielsen is lined up on left wing. So I just kind of gave him a little bit of an invite, and he politely accepted. And I remember him and I going. It was more of a draw. I can't say I won, but we both fared very well. I remember bouncing in front of his bench and then going to our bench. So it was a pretty long tilt. And then we ended up winning that game. And I remember after the game, Lauren coming in there and being very emotional about it, and so. I look back at that as such a fun memory, to be such a positive contributor to potentially the turnaround that we made at that time of the season, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, another guy on that team, I don't know if you had any run-ins with him. His character, Jason Renard.
Oh, Jason Renard. I don't think we might have fought a couple times. They might have been wrestling matches, but yes, Jason Renard was a character. I ended up playing with him for a couple of weeks there in Tri-Cities.
Yep.
That guy was a beast when it came to strength. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he was just such a strong guy. And a lot of fun to play against, really. You know, he's one of those guys that, you know, talked enough, but not too much, if you will. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and then the other team that had a really strong season that year, of course, was Medicine Hat, and of course with 16-year-old Rob Niedermeyer and Clayton Norris and Stacey Roos, David Cooper, who had a lot of fanfare being drafted by Toronto, Mike Ratchie, Brian McCabe, Lauren Tays. Like, man, these are stacked teams. When you go back and look at it, it's like, holy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was a good team. Yeah, they could skate as well. They're a really good skating team. We had some guys on Saskatoon that could skate, but we beat people down by just staying the course in our systems. Right? You hear that a lot in today's hockey or in today's sports. Just stay the course and good things will happen. And that's pretty much what we had to play against these teams that were way more skilled than us, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it was just like like I said, I mean, I could be here all day reading off rosters to people, but it was just like, it was such a tough time too in that league with so many tough guys, and I know in the newspaper they would do the best in the East and the best in the West and all that, and when the voting came out, it would be voted on by players and coaches would do the voting, and you weren't allowed to vote for guys in your own team. So, I mean, folks, this is when the boys are voting, it's legit. Like, it's not a bunch of writers or anything, it's the boys. And they would vote like best player, best goaltender, best skater, all that stuff. And one of the categories was best fighter. And you finished tied for second. It was Brant Myers, and then you and Clayton Norris were the top three guys picked for the best fighters. And I know this year you fought Brant Myers 6 times and Clayton Norris 3 times. I went through the fight card. Yeah. Wow.
Nice.
What was fighting Brant Myers 6 times? Like, that dude, mass, because he's pretty much the same size as you, and he's left-handed.
Yeah.
And he's left-handed. So,
yeah.
I mean, he cleaned through the league, man. So, what were some of those battles like?
Respectful. I think that's probably the best word to say. Brad came over. I can't remember where he played out west. I think it was Portland.
Yeah,
and he got traded to Lethbridge. I think his 17-year-old year. I think I got a year on him. But we fought very shortly after he started playing with Lethbridge, and I remember that fight. It was just a real feeling out match, but I got the upper hand on him, and I think that was the only thing to my benefit, because I think I got in his head a little bit. And I don't mean any disrespect, but all fighters know that in a lot of ways it's a mind game. But I remember a lot of times playing against Swift Current and seeing their tough guy and the after effects of, some guys would be wearing full visors and their nose would be sideways after fighting Brant the night before. But there was one time, so usually we had a pretty good tilt, a draw. I would hope that he would say the same thing, but I would think that I got the better hand of him on the most part. But there was one fight in Saskatoon. We ended up wrestling each other down the ice, and we're sitting in the penalty box. And I'll never forget this. I looked at him and I said, "We're going as soon as we get out of this box." And he goes, "Yes, we are." And it was such a gentleman handshake, right? So we did. We squared off, and we ended up both throwing a couple, and he came in tight, and I just whispered in his ear. I said, "Brant, let's stand back and chuck him." And again, Brant, like you said, is a lefty, and I'm a righty, and he was quicker to the draw than I was. He was like Doc Hollywood, if you will, right? And man, I took that shot off the right cheek, and I pulled him back in tight again, right? I can't remember ever being hit that hard. I pulled him back in tight again, and I whispered in his ear, "I'm fucking throwing you down to the ice now, you prick." Yeah, but Brant Myers was one tough individual. And again, those lefties, right?
Yeah.
You got to be weary.
Yep. Well, I didn't touch on this earlier, but one of the guys on your team, of course, was a rookie that year because he fought Myers a couple times as well, and had his battles with Staniforth. And I think you guys had your own battles. Was Rhett Tremblay? He had traded from Tacoma he played a few games right at the start of the year with Tacoma, got traded to Saskatoon. 16 years old, big kid. Of course, Rhett Tremblay went on, played in the minors, the Golden Rhett. What were and that was the thing back then, right? You were the big dog on the team, and he's coming in and he wants to make a name too, and he's a young guy, 16, full of piss and vinegar, and he's wants to establish himself. Did you guys have any run-ins like early on, like trying to was he trying to make bones with you? What was your impressions of Rhett Tremblay?
Well, I think I did when I met Rhett Tremblay. I think probably the most polite way of describing Rhett Tremblay is unique, right? He's a very unique individual, to say the least. Most guys, if you had a tandem like that, would see the benefit of the tandem. But Rhett wanted to be number one. He wanted to wear the belt so much that he was willing to fight anyone. And, again, stuff happens in practice just because emotions get high and stuff. But there was one time in practice that he decided it would be in his best interest when we were doing 3-on-2 dump-ins when I cut the net, and he blindsided me and cross-checked me right in the throat. So that would be an invitation for me to take him on. And unfortunately for him, and I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm sure Rhett can admit it too, that he didn't fare very well in that fight. So he learned very quickly that Saskatoon Blades was my show at that time, right? And unfortunately, had to come to that. But I think after that instance, we gained a new respect, or he gained a new respect, and we just kind of went on our daily duties, if you will.
Yeah, well, and at that time, like you said, it was an arms race back then, man, and you needed toughness, and you and Rhett Tremblay, and and then the undercard, you had Yakimish, and you still had Jeff Buchanan around too. So they're like, man, you guys had a tough team, man. Well, and then McFatridge too, Sean.
Yes, Fort McMurray boy, Sean McFatridge. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for reminding me about him. He was, he was such a nice young man. Like, I just remember when you say Sean, I just remember his smile, right? He's just always smiling, that guy, and willing to go through a brick wall for anybody, right? He didn't have to be convinced of his role, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and like we were saying earlier, right? And then of course, Sandwith shows up and Jason Knight shows up, and you guys had a tough team, man. Like, but yeah, you and Tremblay were definitely leading the way.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
Yeah, well, and then going full circle there, like those articles that we were very fortunate enough from your friend on the other side of the pond there.
Oh, Yuka, yeah.
Sent us there. Yeah, Yuka, that one article of Saskatoon Blades in Moose Jaw, and let's not think about Mark Raiter and Rhett Tremblay. Let's think of Ken Staniforth. Ken Staniforth fought both of us.
Yeah.
In the same game.
Yeah.
And I think he might have fought. I think the article said something about him fighting one of us twice. So he fought 3 times that night. And so again, just go full circle to the character of Ken Staniforth, because I can honestly say that I knew I had some skills. And Rhett Tremblay, no matter my personal feelings for the guy, he was a tough kid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and one of the things that year, speaking of the articles, and I can remember this because they pumped this up huge, was, of course, we go back to the Regina Saskatoon thing, and the Pats brought in Mike Crisping. And it was all over the news. He was a tough guy from Ontario, from Junior A in Ontario, a big guy. And you guys actually ended up playing them on the TSN. At the time, TSN would do a game of the week. And it was the TSN game of the week. Yeah. It was Regina and Saskatoon. And everybody was talking about Cresping and you and Tremblay, one of the two. And Unfortunately, him and Red they squared off for a while, and I think they fell down right away or something. It ended up being as I think it was Bob McKenzie said, it was a lunch pail letdown, on his commentary. But we were all we were all getting pumped for that. Did you? I can't remember, but because I know Cresping only stayed around for about 20 some games. Did you ever end up fighting that guy?
I don't believe so. And I do, now that you mention that, I do remember that whole scenario. And I'll be honest with you, when there was newcomers like that and it was between Rhett and I would be more than happy to let Rhett take them on. Not that it was kind of a feeling out here. It was like, if you guys want to get to me, let's try out the silver medal before you come to the gold medal. Right? So that was the way I looked at it.
Well, another, I had 256 pins that fucking year, so obviously I was willing to go at it quite a bit. Oh, I mean, I wish I had your full fight card, but this was just stuff that I could piece together and I found. I know another fight that you had.
You've done a hell of a job. That's 30 years ago for a guy that played very little hockey after junior.
Wow, we're searching, but I know one of the fights because I actually have it on tape. I got to find it because that was actually a Shaw game. You fought Dave McMillan from Tacoma when Tacoma came to town. He was a tough dude too, man. Local farmer.
That's the one with him and I behind the net, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was wearing 26 at that time. So that would have been my 20-year-old year. Right? And if you look at the film, it shows me that I think that was when I came back for the short stint with Saskatoon before I got shipped off to Tri-Cities.
Okay.
But I threw him around pretty good. The film shows that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Well, like you said, you guys had the great playoff run. You end up going all the way to the final against eventually losing, unfortunately, in the 7th game to the Kamloops Blazers. And you just look at that. Again, Scott Niedermeyer and Zach Boyer and Sean Green and Craig Lyons, Jared Dooling, Daryl Sador. It's like, on and on. Darcy Tucker, Tyson Nash.
Yeah. Hirsch and Neck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
And like we were saying, that was the coming out of Norm Miracle for the Blades, who had been a backup kind of at the start of the year and then got hot in the playoffs, and then he didn't turn back after that.
No. Norm Miracle, like I was telling you previous to us recording here, my favorite memory is he started making a name for himself later on the year, and he had a really good outing. We were playing Swift Current in the playoffs, and he makes this wild glove save on an open net, and I just remember him not looking back. And he was such a unique, happy character. He was not like any other goaltender I've met. Every other goaltender usually on game day has the Eddie Belfour syndrome, right? Like just really focused, don't get in their lane, stay the fuck, don't even say hi to them, how you doing today? Just stay the fuck out of their lane. Norm was complete opposite of that. He was the guy sitting in the corner making jokes. And you know what? I could see that his cohort, Trevor Robbins, just didn't get it. And it frustrated him because Trevor Robbins was the Eddie Belfour frame of mind. And you could tell it just pissed him off that how Norm could just have this presence to him. And it almost seemed like it was I don't give a shit. I'm just out here to fucking roll around and save a puck. Right? He was refreshing, to say the least. Very refreshing, yeah.
Oh, I forgot that. In one of the playoff games when you were playing Swift Current, you actually fought a guy who ended up played in the NHL a little while, played in the minors forever in the IHL, undersized guy, but tough as shit. Dodie Wood. Do you remember the fight with Dodie Wood?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah. He was probably more like a Sean Yakimission to me, eh? A little smaller.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And he did the duck, and he'd do the duck under the arm thing.
Yeah. And those guys were the hardest to fight for big guys, right? Because usually if they like to charge in on a big guy and get on the inside, right?
Yep.
And then what do? And you're just kind of hitting him on the top of the head like a Barney Rubble. like a Fred Flintstone would do, right?
Yeah.
So those were challenging fights, and not to take anything as if I was a small guy, that's exactly the same fucking thing I would have did, right? So I don't remember it fully, completely, but I do remember having a good tilt. Yeah, I do remember that much.
Yeah, he's a tough dude, man. I was reading. Well, speaking of Swift Current, I know that Trent McCleary played in Swift Current, and there's that article he talks about. He took a run at you from the blue line, and did he end up getting a hit in the ice and breaking his jaw, and you went flying? Do you remember that collision?
100%, I remember that collision. Yeah, I ended up getting a pressure cut because we hit helmet to helmet. So what happened was I was going, they dumped the puck in. I went to pick up the puck, and while I rounded the net, I reversed the puck and I cut the net. And how the audience from the bench, my teammates told it, he pretty much beeline from the blue line. He knew exactly where I was going. And I had at least 4 inches on him, at least. And when we made contact, we were helmet to helmet. So he jumped. And he landed behind the net, and I landed in the corner by the time the impact was over. And I remember just kind of looking there, reading my stick. Yeah, that's Canadian. And then looking over, and he was Bambi. He knocked himself out. Yeah. I'm surprised he even talked about that story, right? Because, later on in that series, he had the same opportunity coming the opposite way from around the net. And I seen him coming this time. A little earlier, not the entire way. I seen him coming a little earlier this time. He decided to take the opposite end of the tracks at that time. he was a competitor, man, right? Yeah. And that guy liked to talk. So I believe there was one occasion that I came very close to taking his teeth out with my wood.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, you talk about him, and like, there's lots of rats back then, like Nash and Tucker and Corey Dosdall and guys like that. Was there any Slate Stevenson and stuff? Do you have anybody in mind that you think back and you're just like, you never got him, but you're like, oh, I wanted to take his teeth out? Do you remember anybody off the top of your head?
No. Usually I ended up putting out those fires pretty quick, right? If there was a guy running around that was trying to make a name for himself, he was challenged, right? So, like I said, usually I put out those fires pretty quick. And the guys that had the rambly mouths, eventually you just learn to ignore them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just rinse and repeat verbalization, right? So shut the fuck up. I got bigger and better things to deal with than you little puppy dog.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get into the draft, obviously, and everything. But one of the things I like to do on the show, and is just kind of getting guys like the talk about like their fighting philosophy, like what they like to do and stuff like that. And of course, back then, especially in the Western League, I always used to call it the code of the West. You always take your helmet off, pop your helmet all the time. But did you prefer that? Did you like to square off, or did you kind of want to get into it right away?
Well, I like to square off and then get into it right away. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't have patience. I didn't have patience for the dance.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, that probably got me into trouble on a few occasions, right? When you lose your patience, you end up going and reaching. And the good fighters, once they got the upper hand on you, they know how to keep that momentum. So that was probably my fault, is not willing to dance. Like, I just wanted to say, we're going to do this. Let's get it over with, right?
Yeah.
So
well, that was going to be my question, because there's always the square off, right? And there's always going to be, at some point, someone's got to cross the line, right? And it's like, I ask guys, some guys that you talk to, they want to be the aggressor. They want to go right into it. Other guys want to counterpunch and react to that.
Yeah.
But I guess you just sort of answered it. You would get impatient. You'd cross the line first.
Yeah. And, but again, usually the good ones, like when it came to, say, Brad Myers and I, like there wasn't any dancing, we'd flip the lids and we'd engage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd engage, right? So, and that's the thing that I didn't like about a lot of the fights is the dancing, right? Or the guys, there were guys that when you're going for your chin strap and they would charge you.
Yeah.
And oh, come on, man! Like that's not the gentleman's agreement, you fucking little prick.
Well, yeah, some guys, you got to take the helmet off. You got to spin it. You got to fix the hair. You got to look good for the chicks, man. Before we go here, like
I did that once. When I put on a show. I actually, this kid in Portland, we were in Saskatoon. He was running around, so he accepted the challenge, and I decided to lay my helmet down on the ice and properly put my gloves beside my helmet, lay my stick down like it was ready for a photo shoot, and then I turned around and one punched this kid.
Was that Daniluk? Was that Daniluk?
I can't remember, but it might have been a one punch, but it was a pretty quick fight. I know that. But I know my general manager came to me even before the game ended and did not have kind words for that show that I put on. Needless to say, I never repeated that again. But I laugh at it now.
Well, there you go. We got a story, right? Well, it was interesting before we got going. I had mentioned to you tonight, Rempe fought Reeves. And then the first thing you said is, I wonder how Rempe did. He's got to learn to use his size. Well, when at like you said, you're 6'5" and stuff. At the time, one of the biggest guy in the league, you and Myers and stuff. When did you learn to use your size? Did it come? Because I always say the worst thing, big guys always fight small when they first start. It seems like because they get caught leaning forward and like stand back, use your size. When did you learn to do that? And did someone like tell you, or did you cut like to Buchanan or one of these guys? Because Buchanan was a big dude too. Was it like use your size, or how did that all start?
Well, Buchanan, like I said, Buchanan was kind of a mentor to me, if you will, even if he thought he was, or even if he didn't think he was a mentor to me. But I think, I was one of those guys, I did as I saw. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I just naturally was the guy that stood back, because that's how I watched the guys do it on TV. Right? They stood back and they threw punches. You took a punch and you gave a punch, and hopefully you'd be the last man standing. So that's kind of the mentality I had. So I think it wasn't learning how to use my size. I became better at utilizing my ability to navigate through different scenarios, if you will, right? Because eventually, once people, the same audience, you eventually start learning the tactics, right? Like, well, I had a good right hand, I could throw both, but I had to figure it out if people were going to tie up my right and how to get it loose, or, a lot of those games. So, and again, the impatience, starting the fight, all those things. So, when I first came in as a 16-year-old in Saskatoon and I was told that this was going to be what I had to do, I remember fighting Darren Bader. Darren Bader was the guy that was calling me on, and then Lubinicky decided to stop the whole damn ice session and call me out in front of everybody. So I decided to take Darren's challenge, and by the end of the fight, I had Darren's shoulder pads over. And again, I'm a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. He's got all the experience in the world, and I'm undressing him like he's the rookie, right? And then the next inter-squad game, Rob Wallisher, previous name you mentioned, wonderful guy. He goes on a coast-to-coast rush. His objective was not to go and score a goal. His objective was to come after me. I hip check him at the blue line. This guy is flying through the air, and he's got his gloves off, and he's reaching for his chin strap. So I had to fight him, obviously, and one punch him. He went down. And then Drew Sawtell was the biggest of the three. And Drew and I went toe-to-toe. So I knew that I had the ability to manipulate my size, but it was learning how to manipulate the scenarios, I guess, as a lot of the fighters can attest to. Yeah. It
man, what a role! Well, this year, of course, like we said, you had the big year, 72 game, played every game, 354 minutes, 14 points, 22 playoff games. The draft
goals and 14 points. Was that 3 goals?
2 goals, 12 assists. And then in the playoffs, you had 7 assists, 22 games.
Right? I almost in half of the games, not even. I had pretty good points. Half a game per point, or half a point per game.
Well, and for those that,
dear diary.
Yeah, well, for the folks that don't know, that 354 penalty minutes, that does not include 10-minute misconducts, because the Western Hockey League did not include 10-minute misconducts in their penalty minute total. So I would assume you would have been in the high fours for sure if they had counted tens.
Oh yeah, right. Think of Toporowski then. He would have been in the 700s.
He was. Somebody broke down his penalty minutes if they had counted like misconducts and everything. And with the playoffs and everything else, I think it was 900 minutes that year.
Right?
Yeah.
So, well, it just goes to show they're tallying the right stuff. We don't need to tally up 10 minutes when we're sitting in the room. Fuck all. Put me on the sheet for a high stick or a 5-minute major.
There you go.
Right.
Well, that was the thing. And initially, the reason they didn't want to do it is they didn't want to look bad in the media, because they didn't want all these guys to have 400 penalty minutes, because the OHL in Quebec counted them, and it was like, but the Western League wouldn't, because they're like, yeah, it's probably bad publicity if we do that. So, which is crazy. I imagine if somebody went and did the math and actually did all the box scores, some of the totals would be crazy. But okay. We head into the 1992 NHL entry draft, and you were eventually drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs, round 4, 95th overall. Going into that draft, did you have talks, did you do any draft interviews and stuff, or was this a complete surprise to you? Did you talk to Toronto? Walk us through that draft. Where was that draft, and did you go to it? And tell us all about it.
No. I was not at that draft that year, and yes, I had a couple interviews, not a lot. Right, I knew I wasn't going in the first 3 rounds. Even the 4th round was quite surprising, to be honest with you. But I did meet up, and I did meet up with a couple of guys from Toronto, and then they were the ones that suggested to the Maple Leafs that they choose me. That was an exciting time, right? It's every hockey player's dream.
Yeah.
To make it that far, right? Just thank you for bringing that up, man, because that brings up a lot of good memories. Just the whole from beginning to the season, from the meeting with Lord Mulliken in the stands to Lord Mulliken actually phoning me before Toronto did. Lord Mulliken, I believe the draft was in Montreal that year, and Lord Mulliken was there. And he was like, well, fuck, Raiter, Toronto took you. Tampa Bay was going to take you first pick in the 5th. If they didn't, but congratulations. And it was just so cool that, the story began and kind of ended with Lord Mulliken there, right? I'll never forget that. And then Taran Sandwith, he was with us for a short period of time, but he's a Stony Plain boy, so he drove out to Leduc the day I got drafted. Spent some time with the family and, just some friends and family that I grew up with and from Leduc here, and we just ended up drinking a trunk full of booze and, making a lot of fun out of it.
Well, it's interesting. Like you said, Tampa Bay was going to take you. Well, that pick, Tampa Bay took Brant Myers.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, maybe things would, a lot of the history might be different, but those were the cards we were dealt, right?
Exactly. Well, so Toronto drafts you, like you said, you're on. You guys are out drinking, having a good time, and holy shit! And then all of a sudden, the fall comes, and it's like, I guess I got to go to Leaf Camp. What was that like to go to? Well, I obviously went to rookie camp first. Did you end up in main camp at all that year, that first year?
Yes, yeah. Back in the day, I don't remember any rookie camp. At least Toronto didn't have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just invited everyone in there and split up all the bodies into 3 inter-squad teams, and you practiced with your team and you played with your team against the other guys, right? But so I already was flown down there midsummer to kind of do a meet and greet, and Field Spot Ben was there and a few other guys, and spent some time at the garden. So that was kind of gave a little bit of familiarity when you finally show up at camp. So we stayed at a place called the Harbor Castle, right at the bitter end of Yonge Street. And I go and check in my hotel room. and there's a guy's bag already in the room. I'm like, okay, well, got a roommate, I guess, eh? And I look at the tag on the bags, and who is it? None other than Ken Baumgartner.
Nice.
Is my roommate in my first Toronto camp, right? And for all you tough guys out there, Ken Baumgartner, like, he's a legend. And what a wonderful human being. Like, I'm really glad that he was my first roommate in a professional camp. He was such a gentleman. He was such an easy guy to get along with. He was so much fun. So as a rookie going into junior, and, you know, all the negativity that I faced there as far as hazing and initiations and all that bullshit, I was really the big question mark on how my experience was going to go with the show. And what an opposite! What a brilliant difference! Like, I was lucky enough to sit in the same dressing room as Felix Potvin, Grant Fuhr, Mark Osborne, Doug Gilmore, and I'll tell you what, man, there was no hazing bullshit. There was no bringing people down to build them up. It was just a lot of fun, and everyone, yeah, there was some razzing here back and forth, but it was grown men being grown men playing a kid's sport. And but to be honest with you, that first year was such a wonderful experience. Yeah.
Well, and then hanging with the Bomber too, man. Like, he is one of my. You didn't tell me this at the restaurant. I didn't get that story.
Yeah.
And I love Bomber. Yeah. He's one of my all-time favorites. And of course, a brilliant person. Obviously, went on to be a lawyer and everything else. Like, the guy's a genius, as well as
very smart guy.
Oh yeah, and he could kick the shit out of people. So it was like, well, and he's an old dumb guy too. Played PA and shit. Did
he played in Prince Albert?
Yeah. Was he? Yeah. And I mean, at that point, going into that camp, I mean, he's making the team. It's not like he has to big league you or anything. Was he helpful to you at all? Yeah. Like, was he kind of telling you, like, because he would know what you're there for and who you are and what your role is? And I mean, well, look at you. Yeah. I mean, it's like, was he cool with you? Did he like, hey, watch this guy do this or do that, or was it just sort of welcome to Toronto and just sort of?
You know what? I don't remember him giving too much advice. I just remember him being a good human being. You know, like, he was just, for a guy, I really learned, and gained more respect for the guys that are tough guys, right? Because I'm laying in bed one night running the remote control, and here Ken is doing like 50 push-ups and 80 sit-ups. And I go, what the fuck you doing there, old man? He's like, Raiter, he's like, how the fuck do you think I stay in the league, man? Like, I'm not scoring goals, so I better keep in good physical condition, right? And so that's what I remember of Ken Baumgartner, is just such an approachable, and he'll give it to you straight type of guy.
Well, like you said, Doug Gilmore is there, Todd Gill, Wendell Clark. Did you have any run-ins with Wendell Clark?
Well, not. He had a kind of a partial breakaway that I remember. I kind of body checked him. I angled him off into the corner. I body checked him. He went down. I picked up the puck. I moved it as fast as I could. And then I went sat on the bench before anyone can come after me, because I just thought to myself, holy fuck, I just cranked Wendell Clark. Right? And this is in the Maple Leaf Gardens, like before it got taken down brick by brick. And so I'm very thankful having that memory of being able to play in the Gardens and Joe Louis Arena for, in a couple exhibition games. And, but Wendell, I had an opportunity to meet him in the springtime, actually, before I got drafted to Toronto. As we all know, he's a Saskatchewan boy, Calvington, Saskatchewan. Yeah. He played his hockey in Saskatoon. And so him and a few other boys are partying at the Texas T way back in the day. The Texas T, Saskatoon, yeah. And I remember sitting there with actually a full circle moment, Shane Calder, and I was sitting there, and Shane's pointing at the bar. He's like, Raiter, check that out. And I look over at the bar, and the bartender, she was fucking smoking. And I was like, man, that's a good looking girl, isn't it? And he goes, no, look at who in front there. So it's Wendell Clark. So Shane calls over Wendell, and I tell you what a polite gentleman. We end up hanging out with him that night. So now I'll go into fall camp. I'm sitting there in the dressing room with a couple of the new guys. And here Wendell Clark comes walking through, and he recognizes me before I even seen him. And he's like, hey, Race, how are you? And I'll tell you what, man, did I get the gold treatment after that? Like, how the fuck do you know Wendell Clark? Of course, he played up a little bit. Oh, yeah, we go way back.
Oh, yeah.
But no, true gentleman. Wendell Clark, a true gentleman, yeah.
Well, another veteran at the time that was playing, Mike Foligno. There's another name. I forgot he was in Toronto when you were there. Yeah. Well, and of course the coach is Pat Burns. And of course he's sort of a legendary figure and everything else. What were your interactions with Burnsy like?
I only remember one interaction, and that was in the hotel lobby, and it was I killed it on the fitness training. I killed it on the fitness testing, and he made a point of pulling me over in the lobby and congratulating me on my results. And that's pretty much the only words that I ever spoke with Mr. Burns. Yeah.
So, we were talking before, we were trying to figure out, I know, and on camp, and I know because it made the news here, you ended up having a fight with Ryan Vandenbush.
I wish someone could track down that clip. Ryan Vandenbush was a tough guy from the OHL. Yep. Many people that may or may not know him. Probably just like he never knew who Mark Raiter was. I didn't know who Ryan Vandenbush was until we landed in Toronto together. And, he fared well. But we ended up going in Toronto there. He took offense to me giving him a late body check, I guess, and we ended up squaring off pretty quick. And I used one of the old tricks that Buchanan taught me. We kind of got into a little bit of wrestling match, so I ended up tying both of Ryan's sleeves into my one fist and ended up just having a free-for-all with my one free hand while I had him pretty much handcuffed. So that fight I ended up faring very well with him, but what I do know about Ryan off the ice is, again, one of those guys that I would like to cross paths with again one day. He was just such a good guy. I was glad to see that he had a pretty good go at it in the show. Yep.
No, absolutely. I know we were talking earlier. I know you played some exhibition games. Was it your first year or your second year with McCarty?
No. I believe it's my first. Was my first year, but I kind of pin it as being my second year because now going full circle, like I kind of did little tidbits here and there about the negative things that I dealt with as a hockey player, a young hockey player going through the junior ranks. But when I fought Darren McCarty, Ryan Vandenbush actually gave me some advice that Darren throws fast. Throws a lot. So it was one of those things, just not try and give him the upper hand. So we knew we were going to fight this one particular, I think it was in Windsor, Ontario, Southern Ontario. So anyways, we were playing an exhibition game there and we ended up going toe to toe and I ended up doing the non-patient thing again and I went reaching in and he got the upper hand on me. And and I can only explain it as kind of if you will, David and Goliath, right? Because we were going to go, and I already fought a couple of their other tough guys in previous exhibition games, and I fared very well. Like I remember fighting Jamie Pusher, and I ragdolled him over his own bench, right? So I know that Darren was getting prepared for it. I could see it when we were about to fight. And again, I went in reaching, and not to take anything away from him, Darren got the upper hand, and I ended up losing the fight. But I do know one thing, when I look back at that fight, it's kind of a staple of when my career started taking a downward turn, and his took an upward turn. So, hopefully one day that I'd like to be able to cross paths with him. I know he's done a good job of facing his demons and actually, speaking positively about being true to yourself. He'd be a guy that I would like to actually touch base with and kind of see his thoughts. If he even remembers that fight, I don't know. But it was a pretty exciting time, so I don't foresee him forgetting that.
Well, yeah, and so that following year, so 92, 93, you have the Leaf camp. You're kind of flying high. You're drafted. You had a good camp, and you come back to Saskatoon, and it's kind of back to 57 games, 14 points, 173 minutes. It's like, You guys had a pretty solid team again. Lauren's coaching, but it was just one of those. I know you were kind of saying that was sort of like the beginning of the end, kind of, or like was just this a real tough year for you this year? That 92-93 after the Leaf camp, like. Yeah. When you should have been sort of flying high, and like you said, Burns pulls you aside, says you had a great camp. You look, you're in shape, and here you go. And then you get back. Then you come back to Saskatoon. I mean, you should be kind of the conquering hero, and it's sort of just like kind of falls flat. What happened there that year?
I don't know if it was expectations or the environment was different. We obviously had some new faces that came in, some good, some not so good. And for myself, like I said, I think it was just expectations and, just really having a tough time with a lot of things and feeling, kind of feeling alone, if you will, right? That was a challenging year to say the least. I just didn't find my way very well, and it just... The fighting's a tough thing, and I know I dislocated my right shoulder a couple times that didn't need surgery, but that put me out. And then the roller coaster ride of being injured again, and then again there wasn't too much positive going on. So it was that was a really difficult year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting just from the coming and goings of the team, and I know because Tremblay had issues and he got shipped out, and I know, well, like you said, a couple of the young guys. I mean, Chris McAllister and Wade Belak played a few games that year. That might have been an interesting training kit. Did Belak go after you at all, or McAllister? Did you have any run-ins with them in camp?
No. Well, so that's a great story. So my 20-year-old year, that summer, I actually had a wonderful opportunity to train with Kenny Lacusta, the all-time Canadian heavyweight. What a wonderful man. So I wanted to test out my new skills, if you will, on the ice. And Wade Belak, this would have been Wade Belak and Chris McAllister's year that they made the team as full-time players. And I remember walking in their dressing room on their inter-squad team, and I just looked at both of them and I just said, first come, first serve. And they both stood up and said, right on, let's do this. Okay. I said, well, like I said, first come, first serve. And Chris McAllister was the guy that I ended up going. Anyway, Saskatoon fans. I ended up taking him down. But again, I'm a 20-year-old and he was like 16, 17 at the time, right? He had a lot of learning to do. And I just remember the Saskatoon fans yelling at me, take on somebody your own size. Well, the guy's 6'7". I was 6'5", for fuck's sakes, right? Yeah. Your hometown fans. But Wade Belak, I'll tell you what, like I still have a really good appreciation for that young man. When he came up for a couple games in his 15-year-old year when he was playing major midget out in North Battleford. We called him up for a few games during our Alberta swing, and everyone knows the name Rocky Thompson, right? No. So we're sitting on the bench. Lauren decides that me and Wade are going to be D partners. So I'm sitting on the bench with Wade, again, a 15-year-old guy, and I'm a 19-year-old veteran. And he kind of gives me the nod. He's like, hey, Raiter, what's up there? Let's go out there and start something. I'm like, okay, young man. I said, you lead, I'll follow. Let's check this out. Well, he ends up... I'll tell you what, man, I've seen a lot of blood, but this fight presented a lot of blood, and it wasn't his when he took on Rocky Thompson, I'll tell you that. And so you knew right there that... I was actually looking forward to he was going to be that guy to accept the challenge, but also always, on the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, maybe it was a good thing too. Yeah, but those guys both did well for themselves, right? Yeah, such good young men. I remember when I was on Facebook a few years back, I had a chance to reconnect with McAllister, and I think he's back in the Saskatoon area raising a family there, and such a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah, he works at the mine here. Yeah, he's a good dude. I've had him on the show. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Well, I'd laugh. I saw him at Walmart there. Yeah, you noticed him at Walmart. I can tell you that. Holy, yeah, it's just like, okay, But, it's a large human, man. Like you said, a couple rookies that year. Clark Wilm, of course, who went on to had a great pro career. Brett Warner, another guy that had a great NHL career. Chad Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
All good names, right?
Yeah.
Clark Wynn was probably my favorite out of those guys. Like, he was a do it all and do anything. And what I mean by do anything is not only as a player, but as a person. Right? You could tell that he was going to form, and like he's a rookie and a 16-year-old rookie, but you can just tell out of those three that he's going to be a quality young man. And all the stories that I heard ring true to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was saying before, like, Rhett Trombley had some issues and he got sent down and everything else. But one of the guys, when they sent him down, that they brought in, do you remember Chris Hawes?
I don't know that name.
Well, he's from Prince George, and he came and he only played 2 games, and he was in, one of them was in Moose Jaw, and who'd he fight now? I just went blank. Who'd he fight in Moose Jaw? It was an awesome fight. They went toe-to-toe. But Hawes was a bad dude, man. Like, he came out of the BC League with, like, 300 minutes of penalties and shit. And he played 2 games, and all of a sudden he went into Mulligan's office and said, yeah, I can't play in this league. I got to go. And just went back home, and that was it. He was done playing.
Well, maybe it was a case of homesickness.
It could have been. I mean, but it was because he had played in Victoria the year before, like a full season, and he had like 349 minutes with the Cougars, and then he played with the Blades for like 2 games and left. Yeah, but he was a big dude. But
well, I wonder time of year might be something too, right? Because if you're coming from the island where it's always nice, maybe raining during certain parts of the season, and you're getting to -40, -50 with the wind chill, Saskatoon, right? Anyways,
that's true. Well, how about I'm gonna hit you with a name here, Mike Gray.
Mike Gray.
You remember him?
I know how. Again, it's been a long time ago, but I do know that name. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he played. Well, that was he played 60 games with you guys that year. He had 150 minutes, but he had been in Spokane the year before and had like 300 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't he a wiry forward?
Yeah. He was. Yeah, he wasn't very big. He was like skinny and stuff, but he was kind of nuts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember him. I think he was actually Mike. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, I remember him now. Yeah, good guy. Yeah.
Well, and then Peter Cox.
Peter Cox. Yeah. What a good guy. Both the Cox boys, right? There was Jason Cox and Peter Cox, right?
Yep.
Right. Right. Peter Cox was an interesting cat, right? Just he's a black guy.
Yeah.
So, there wasn't a lot of black representation back then, right?
No. Yeah.
So, I could understand that, could see him that he, comfort levels weren't the same. But he was a wonderful guy. I do remember that of Peter. And then Jason Cox, I know that you guys still keep in touch with him to this day, and he's such a funny, charismatic character. He's the guy that would always make the cartoon caricatures of us. I think there was actually an article about him being a hockey player / cartoonist. Yeah. Cox is from the Moose Jaw area, I believe. He's out there. Yeah, good guy, really good guy.
Going through those articles, I know in Swift, one of the guys at Swift Current, Bill Houston, did he gouge you in a fight?
I don't remember him gouging me. I remember during one of the fights when I dislocated my shoulder with him, I actually hit him, and he brought me down. He brought me down to the ice with him, and I went to swing a punch, and I missed his head, and my arm skipped on the ice, and there went my shoulder. And I remember him laying underneath me, going, "Raiter, is your shoulder out?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, I'll just lay here until the trainer comes and gets you." He actually did me a big favor, man, right? Because your shoulder's dislocated and you're 240 pounds, man. It's not easy to move around. So, yeah, I remember that. Because I think he's actually from around my area here in the league.
Well, like you said, you guys had, you unfortunately lost the second round that year. And like you said, it wasn't a real big, fun year for you that year. But 93, 94, so you go back to Leaf Camp. And I know when we were talking to the restaurant about it, this is sort of the year they got on you about the weight. and they wanted you to lose all this weight and everything else. Like, well, I mean, how, like, we were saying, why would you want your tough guy to get smaller, especially in the early 90s?
I don't get it neither. But so in the spring of 1993, I would have been 244 pounds at 9.9% body fat. So I wouldn't have been the tallest guy, but I would have been the biggest guy in the NHL, right? And my game plan was, or their game plan for me was to go and play on their farm team up in St. John's, Newfoundland that year. But I'll never forget his good. I'll name names. Bill Waters was a part of the Toronto organization, and for some reason he got it in his head that I needed to get down to 215. And I remember Mark Crawford sitting down with me across the table, and the focus was for me to lose weight. And so, like I said, there was 3 inter-squad teams in a camp. So I was practicing with one inter-squad team, doing 45 minutes of cardio, and then practicing with another inter-squad team. So that's over 4 hours of physical activity. And I also played exhibition games where I was told, we understand that you're going to be a little bit sluggish. You know, understand that we're asking you to do a big change, a physical change here. We're not going to use that against you. So we've had an exhibition game in Joel Lewis, and I owned the corners for a guy that was, 6'5" at that time, 240 some pounds. And I moved pretty well. And I owned the corners. And I remember this one game, that exhibition game, that there was a guy half my size that manhandled me, and I couldn't do nothing. I was just so fucking tired and so weak. So by the time the end of that 2-week session came up, I only came down to 236 pounds. So I only lost 8 pounds. And, that's not losing anything, when I was starving myself pretty much at the same time. So now the meetings come up, and I'm thinking I'm, going to continue on trying to lose this weight and go up to the farm team. And now I got Bill Waters actually called me in his office and pretty much called me a fat bastard. And then I have a meeting with Mark Crawford, and they said, well, we're sending you home. And then he uses the Detroit exhibition game against me and says, you look brutal in that Detroit game. And I was just like, I thought you guys weren't going to use that against us. I don't remember saying that. Right. So as a young guy, that was the beginning of a lot. Right. I was sent back to juniors. I requested a trade. Before I told them to fly me home to Leduc. They did. I requested a trade from Saskatoon because of my relationship with the general manager. And Mulligan got a hold of me and convinced me to come back to Saskatoon. And he promised me, and a promise that he couldn't keep. I don't hold it against one. But he promised me that he would keep Lubinicki away from me, and he couldn't do it. And ultimately, that was one of my demises, right? I remember, again, I was supposed to lose weight, but I'm staying at a billet's place that all he had for me to eat was fucking raw hot dogs. And I'm going to management and saying, hey, guys, like, get me a different place to play. Like, this isn't part of the program. And nothing happened. Eventually, I was a part of a team meeting. Back in the day, a team meeting meant that we'd go out and have a few soda pops and kind of get together as a team and hash things out, or just kind of bond, whatever the case was. And it was pretty much blamed on me. My billet chose to phone on me because I'd been making a curfew. Then management got a hold of this team meeting, and then that whole situation was blamed on me. And ultimately, I was suspended from the team, and then ultimately traded. And then I go to Tri-Cities again under the program that I'm supposed to be losing weight. But for the first 2 weeks out of the 3 or 10 days out of the 2 weeks that I was with Tri-Cities, I'm staying at a hotel. There's no program. Like, where can you get a diet at a hotel? Anyways, by the end of that, the day after 2-3 weeks, they called me into their office and said, we're sending you home. And I said, why are you sending me home? Well, we're sending you home to get into good shape, in better shape. I said, where does this make any sense? I don't have any access to ice. So they sent me home. I phoned them immediately. I said, trade me. They refused to. I said, well, then release my rights, and they refused to. And again, this is my story. This is my story. This is how I remember it, right? So within beginning of September to the end of October, beginning of November, I am now laying on my couch in the basement. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. And pretty much at that time, my family, being my parents, alienated me. All the adults, my agents at that time, alienated me. And that was the beginning of the demise for that, right? So thank you for bringing up that question. I really did want to share that, as difficult as it is, right? That was kind of...
Well, I was going to say for the listeners, I mean, it's a stark reminder, the reality of the greasiness of hockey, right? And I mean, and I think it's the stuff that a lot of times, there's lots of guys that have stories, right, like that, and and they go under, they don't get talked about, right? So yeah, and I think that's like you said, you go from Toronto Maple Leaf camp playing Joe Louis Arena to 2 months later you're on your couch without a team. It's crazy.
Well, so anyone can say whatever they want about the situation, but, I had an opportunity to go to the East Coast League, and I ended up going out to Manitoba to play junior A, provincial A.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I look back at it now, and I can look back at my life as chapters now, and the reason why I didn't go, and I can look back and forgive that 20-year-old kid now, because I got to own up and look at my own decisions too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here pointing my finger at the world and saying, "Fuck you, world." That's not the case at all. It's actually quite the opposite. But I also have to. We look at a 20-year-old now. We look at a 20-year-old young person, a young kid, and I have to look at that myself, them too, right? And in the reality of it, I was alone. I didn't have any support. I had a good group of friends, but what can your group of friends do, right?
Yeah.
So the thought of going to the East Coast League, which had at least 3 tough guys per team, and just fight my way out of a wet paper bag on a daily basis with no parental figures, no management figures, no any adults, everyone alienated me. And so I look back, and if there's anyone, then I only forgive one person on this world, and that was me, that young person, right? Because I've had a challenging adult life, not just strictly because of that, but that was a really decent contributor to it. So.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and obviously with the mental health factor and everything, and we'll get into that too, but the mental health factor at the time, and like you said, and I mean, especially back then, that we didn't have, no one talked about that. I mean, it can always be talked more, and there can be a lot more work done for mental health, but it's out there now, and people talk about it, and it's recognized now a lot more. Back then, no one talked about it. I mean, you talked about it back then.
No, you were a pussy.
Yeah,
you were a pussy.
Exactly.
Let's just put it. You were a pussy if you weren't able to, take on everything without a suit of armor. Right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Well, like you said, that you go out to Portage. You played with the Terriers there in the Manitoba Junior League. I'm sure I'm sure probably not the best time. I mean, you're playing, but it's obviously, like you said, you went from. Well, we talked about it at the restaurant. Like you said earlier, I'm wearing a Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. Now I'm in the Manitoba Junior A League. 2 months later, what the fuck? And I mean,
that was, Shane Calder's dad phoned me up and he's like, "Mark, you just can't be sitting there." And I went, and I was going to a place where I had at least a little bit. I wasn't close friends with Shane's dad. His name is Bob, by the way. Bob Calder, wonderful guy. Bob and Pauline, beautiful people. But I was going to a place now that at least had a little bit of familiarity.
Yeah.
Right. I knew some. Right. But at the end of the day, it was not a fun time. Right. I remember having the opportunity to go and watch the Saskatoon Blades play Brandon, and so I'm standing outside of the dressing room waiting to talk to a few boys that I missed, and and had a high appreciation for. Mark Watton being one of those guys, still a big fan of his. But I ran into the two scouts from Toronto that encouraged the Toronto Maple Leafs to draft me. And I came out with two things of that conversation after they were done. One, they accused me of being an alcoholic. I said, well, you're an alcoholic. We're here, you're an alcoholic. And in my mind, I'm going, well, if that's the case, then why are you guys just letting me be dragged through the mud instead of coming and helping a young person, right?
Yeah.
And number two, and I'll name names here as well, Garth Millarchuk, Clint Millarchuk's brother, was a scout. And he looks right into my eyes and says, we wasted a fucking draft pick on you. Think about that as I was 21 at the time now, right? I'm a January boy. So this was, Marchish, if you will, about March. And, that I just started sharing that portion of my story just recently. That's how long I've held on to that fucking shit. Right? A grown man had the gall to talk to a 20-year-old young man and just fucking pretty much rip his heart out of his chest and make him feel like a piece of shit. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the ugly part of hockey and the expectations of the fourth line player, right?
Yep. Yeah, and when I was talking to you at the restaurant about it, and you were sharing that story with me, and we had just talked about just the role itself and how demanding it is, and just we talked about your the kind of the career path you took with Brant Myers, him going right after you. Well, of course, Brant Myers is famously suspended from the NHL forever with his issues, and he has since cleaned up and found unhammered, and he's doing really well now. Wrote a book and Painkiller. If anybody wants to read a very good book, I hate to say someone's problems are very good, but it's the lows and then the comeback story, if you will. It's good at the end, but I told Brant I liked the book, but it was very frustrating to read. But you told me that too. Yeah, you said, I remember you mentioning that about his novel, is that you were actually frustrated when you were reading it. Oh, you read it you get mad at him. It's like, what are you doing, man? Yeah. Right? If you're feeling those emotions, then obviously he's not holding back any truths. No. Right? Oh, no, he lays it all out. There's no sugarcoating anything. There is some dark shit in that book. Yeah. That's not easy to do. So good on him, man. I had a chance to run into him a few times in the last in the last 20 years. Yeah, he's a good man. He's a good man. Yeah, no, and he's doing really well. And I was rambling. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So I was saying with this show, that was always what sort of led me to do the kind of the show to begin with, was to talk to the fourth line voice, right? Talk to the tough guy. Because not only do I admire just the role of, to me, it's the hardest job in sports is to do, but what you guys went through just mentally, the anxiety, not just physically. It's only you get punching in the face and everything else. I mean, no one wants to do that either, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But the anxiety before the game, the anxiety coming, I got Myers next week, and then, and then Staniforth's coming, and Clayton Norris is tomorrow, and I mean, it just never, and from junior, and then you get to the pro, and then it's reestablish yourself at the pro level. Oh, here we go, right? And it's just, it's a constant establishing yourself. Year after year after year, you go into camp, someone wants to fight you. It's like, you have Rhett Tremblay, the rookie, coming after you, right? It's like every year. And it's just like, it's amazing. And I think it gets completely lost on people. Like, they don't understand. And that was always the point of why I wanted to do this show and talk to you guys, to lay it out to people. Like, this is what you went through. Because everybody just sees the YouTube. They just see the fight on YouTube and, these guys are so badass. Well, yeah, but it's everything that went into that and everything that goes after that. It's like, people don't see that part of it. And the alcoholism, the mental abuse, and the mental health, and the anxiety, and the injuries, lifelong injuries, and it's like, and lifelong trauma in some cases, right? And we've lost a lot of guys, suicide and everything else. I was just going to go there with that. You don't hear about the
guy that scored 100 points or 80 points on a regular basis taking his own life. You know what? And that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Right? So unfortunately, it's something that we have to learn how to talk about. Right? You know, the list goes on and on with the BLAC, the Cordic. You know.
Yeah.
We don't need to continue on, but you know, it's obviously something that people don't put enough thought into it. That these decisions are allowed to be made, and these guys drag through the mud. That's the way I look at it, right? If anyone else does, that's their prerogative, but that's the way I look at it, right? These guys put their necks on the line, and pretty much at the end of it, it's your number. Check you later. Thank you for your service, right?
Yeah, well, it's like you've had guys in the show, right? And it's the same thing. You're constantly proving yourself, and like you said, you're only as good as your last fight. You know, and
then like I said, when I said earlier about, you know, kind of fuck it to those teammates, I had teammates that would get angry at me for losing a fight.
Yeah.
A goal scorer.
Yeah.
A guy that, you know, that was a 20-point man, but, you know, maybe his job was to rub elbows in the corner, right? Like, who the fuck are you little prick? You know, you're not the one that's putting your face on the line. You're not the one that had to stew on this all night knowing that Clint or Norris and Persofsky and Cordic are coming into town, right? It's not your job to worry about that all night before those guys show up on your doorstep. Right. And, you know, and that was the real thing about it. Right. You know, that not only the pressure on yourself, but just the unrealistic expectations from others. Right. Like, literally, you're getting mad at me. I'm the one that win, lose, or draw, you get pumped up because that guy threw his neck on the line for you. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, and from the history, I mean, fortunately, I would think most teammates appreciated it, but you're always going to get some that are, yeah. Well, there's always that. It doesn't matter what you do in life. There's always that guy, whether you work with them or live next door to them, or there's always that guy. Like you said, just because you're teammates doesn't mean I like you, right? So but well, we'll just kind of wrap up just kind of the pro thing, and then we're going to talk about the Mammoth thing here. But you finish up in Portage, and then you don't play for a year. 94, 95. You take
all
off.
lies. 94, 95. I ended up getting up to a whopping 350 pounds. Started, just didn't know how to live life, right? So I ended up playing some senior hockey in a little town called Millet, just south of Leduc here. But tried out my drinking career, my depression career, trying to get into the workforce life, right? Those are all hard transitions, right? So I did that, and then the following spring, I believe that would have been 94 or 95, a good friend, Colin Gregor, older brother of Jason Gregor. Jason Gregor's good radio personality around this area. But I played against Colin. He's from Leduc as well. Actually, his mom was my principal back in junior high. But we played against each other, and so we got to know each other. And he came up to me one time. He's like, we were in the bar, and he comes up and says, "Raiter, what the fuck you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm having a drink." He goes, "No, what are you doing?" He says, "You're out of shape. You look like shit. You should be playing hockey." So he actually, even before telling me, he just presents to me and says, "I already talked to Phil Roberto down in Birmingham, and you pretty much got a walk-on spot. Just get yourself in shape and get your ass down there." So I did. I got into shape. I lost. I think I got down to 240 pounds from 350 within about 3 months. Right? It was a fast session, but it had to be done. Unfortunately, I didn't make it there until December due to the fact that had an issue with the law, so I had to spend some time behind bars. Just another reality of learning how to live life. But at the end of the day, I went down to Birmingham under the guidance of Colin Gregor, and I learned that it just wasn't it anymore. Right? I had fun, but all my fun was off the ice. Right? I actually had a coach, right? So Phil Roberto gets fired. I'm just trying to make the whole long of it short, if you will. Then the new coach comes in, and the first thing he says to me, he says, I don't understand how you're even here. I don't understand how you ever got drafted. It's like, okay, thanks, man. Like, what am I doing here then, right? And this is after the trade deadline. So he releases me. I'm like, hey, well, then release me if you think that highly of me. And then Mobile, Alabama, we were both basement hockey teams, so they picked me up. And I don't know if you remember that bus off of Shawshank Redemption that Morgan Freeman rides after he gets out of jail. Well, this is the type of bus that I'm riding on from Birmingham to Mobile, Alabama, which is probably like a bus trip from like here to Lethbridge. This is the old raggedy bus that I actually had my hockey equipment on my shoulder and a bag full of linens and clothes, and here I am off to Mobile, Alabama. And again, just another on-ice shit experience, but I did have fun meeting some people off the ice, and you know, the entire thing isn't good, but the hockey wasn't. It wasn't fun anymore, so I chose to remove myself from hockey after that. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was what it was.
Well, before we leave the East Coast League, I do have to ask about I do have to ask you about a couple names. One of them being legendary minor leaguer Jerome Bouchard.
Oh, Bouch. I have nothing but good memories of Bouch. Really, I do. Him and his wife were good people. Now, Bouch, if you're listening, we all know that you had a big, huge crush on Shania Twain. Yeah, like, no one had an opportunity to play anything else but Shania Twain in the dressing room, right? But no, good people, great guy. Do anything for you off the ice. As a teammate, he would stick his nose in anybody's business, and just a very character hockey player. Yeah, really, really. That's one of the good memories. Thank you for bringing up that name. Yeah, he's a good memory. How
about Brad Prefontaine?
Well, Brad Prefontaine. So when I was told by Colin that I was going down there, and I played hockey with Brad in senior hockey that previous year, so that's how Brad and I knew each other. So I was actually the guy that said, Brad, you want to go? And I phoned up Phil, and I said, Phil, you don't know me from Jack, but I got another guy here. So I was the guy that got Brad the tryout down at Birmingham. And what he did with that after it was his own, right? He was, like you said, he played in the East Coast. And then what was that? He went and played in Wichita. What league was that after? Anyways, I know he went and played in Wichita there.
Columbus, the Cottonmouths in the Central League.
Yeah.
And then he ended up coaching there for a while, and that guy's tough.
Brad Prefontaine.
That's a tough dude, man. Hey, another guy I was going to ask you about. I don't know if he was there when you were there. He played. Well, you would have played against him in Swift Current and shit. Guy ran show in the league. Todd Holt.
Todd Holt. Yeah. No, I did play with him. Todd's one of those guys. He was the guy that is like a Theron Fleury, if you will. If he was on your team, you fucking loved him, right?
Yeah.
So when I played with him in Birmingham, I was like, great, good, got the little prick on my team now. But to play against him, man, and again, he's one of those guys you couldn't catch.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, he was good people. He's good people.
Well, and then like you said, you end your hockey journey in Mobile, Alabama. That's kind of crazy. I'm just kind of looking at the roster, man. Ed Johnstone's the coach.
Right.
Sean Hines
Ed
is there.
Johnstone was a piece of work.
Yeah,
Hines was good. Hines ended up doing well in Europe, I believe.
Yeah, he played briefly at San Jose. He had a little bit of an NHL run. Daryl Sittler's kid, Ryan Sittler, was there.
Yeah. Ryan was a nice young man, and Daryl would come down actually quite often. And if anyone speaks of Daryl Sittler, they speak very highly of him, and all right to do so, because he was such a gentleman. Like, just one of those guys that he'd be signing autographs up until the last person was standing. That's how I would picture Daryl Sittler back in his heyday.
Well, I forgot to ask you one of the names when we were going through, because we didn't really talk about Tri-Cities when you were, because you weren't really there for that long. But I gotta ask you, right? Obviously, the character that everybody knows that's in Tri-Cities, of course, he was 16 years old at the time. Ted Hitchcock from Shoresy, Terry Ryan himself. Did you have any? And Damon Lankow. How good were they? 16 years old, Damon Lankow is leading the team in scoring. Of course, he went on to have a great NHL career. Terry Ryan's a crazy character. Do you have any? I know you weren't there for very long, but do you remember any of your interactions with Terry?
Yeah. No, Terry was such an easy guy to get along with, right? He was just like the character he is that you think he is. He was just such a fun-loving, do anything, put his nose anywhere type of guy, right? I have fond memories of him. Lankow was just such a quiet sort. He just went about his business, right? That Tri-Cities organization was quite a 180 compared to what I was used to in Saskatoon. Like the coaching was 3-line from one end to another, skating drills with the puck, right? From Lauren being the educator that he was. So that just goes to show how good Damon Lankow was, that he was able to be that good of a hockey player within no structure, right? Just guys skating around in circles, and there was Damon Lankow. Well, but yeah, Terry Ryan, he's a funny cat, man. Funny cat. We were in Portland one day, and they didn't have the sidewalls on the penalty box. They could literally walk into the stands. And I get into the penalty box, and Terry's already at it with some of the fans. So I think I got a couple of years on Terry. So I'm like, yeah, Terry, just settle down. And all of a sudden, right after I say that, I get suckered in the head with some guy's fountain pop. Well, needless to say, there was no fisticuffs exchange, but there was a fax. Yes, guys, a fax at the Tri-Cities head office, even before we got on the bus, threatening that Mark Raiter and Terry Ryan will be charged next time for any type of equal offenses going forward. It was just... So we were there a couple nights later. I believe it wasn't a week. And they had the side walls in on the penalty box, right? And... nothing happened.
There you go. You guys were creators. You're, well, I was going to say, with all the run-in back then, I mean, especially in them crazy East Coast, well, like you said, you weren't really in the East Coast League, but they had some crazy shit down there. Well, even the Western Hockey League was like Thunderdome back then. Did you ever get into it with a fan? Did you ever pop a fan? Did you guys ever go and get into one with them?
No, but I'll tell you what, Seattle... when they were still playing in that small little university arena, I think it was. That was a wild, wild place to play in, man. Like wild, right? And like they were right on top of you. The boards were so solid. Like you just they knew they didn't win. They didn't lose there very much because they know how to. Just like Kamloops in their small arena back in the day, right? They knew how to play in that. But I'm standing on the blue line one time, right before a face-off, and some fan reaches over and pours his beer right on my head. Like, he pretty much has to stand on the wall to reach over the glass to do this. And I look up past him, and there's a security guard standing right there, laughing his ass off. This is the type of environment we were dealing with back in the day, people, right?
Yeah.
So, and I believe it was earlier that year, that they made the news footage that Tri-Cities actually got into it with the fans there.
Oh, the Sticks.
Like they were. Yes. You remember it. Yeah.
Oh, folks, if you want to know, go to Fourth Line Voice YouTube channel. Just type in Seattle versus fans, and it's like, yeah, they end up the players are swinging the sticks at the fans behind the bench, like tomahawk, like bringing it down, and then the Tri-City fans end up getting the sticks, and they start bringing it back, and it was crazy. Yeah. Well, I couldn't imagine, like, even in the Manitoba League when you were at Portage. Like, there had to be some crazy shit in that league.
Oh, we were playing Winkler one day, and they had a couple of big boys there that weren't afraid to go. I ended up fighting both of them. One of them...
Jason Towley.
I think that's his name. And there was another kid there. But anyways,
Kevin Holiday.
I got kicked off. Yeah, I got kicked off. And I came out from the dressing room and then got into another fight. So Yeah, it was old time hockey, man. It was old time hockey, right? It was slap shot.
Yeah,
right? Shit was getting done.
yeah.
Right?
What? Yeah, Dauphin had
People love that.
Carlos Zoke was in Dauphin, and Kevin Holliday was in Winkler. Man, there were some tough dudes in that Manitoba league, And then that goes back to what I was talking about, Lallisher and guys like that. You go back into that junior A, man. Back then, there was like just some farmers, man. They'd come off the field, fight all winter, and then head back to the farm. And you never heard from them again. But this guy'd pick up like 300 minutes in like 40 games. And it was like these junior A just assassins that no one knew about. But they were just like farmers, man. And like, they're just there to drink beer and fight and go back to the fields, right? It was like, and no one knows, because again, there's no video, there's no nothing. But, and like junior A was just littered with those guys back then. And yeah,
it was a different time.
It was. Well, and I mean, and you would have shown up. Oh, here, the WHL guy, Mr. Maple Leaf, and I could imagine the bullseye that you had on you when you got to Manitoba.
And again, so my ego told me that they were going to be afraid of me.
Yeah,
my ego was fucking wrong, right? Gamers are gamers, man, right?
That's a prized trophy, man. If they could get you, man, for a gunslinger, that's what you'd want. If you're in the Manitoba League and Raiders shows up, yeah, I'll try it, right?
Really, that's really my only memory of playing hockey. I lied. I went to block a slap shot, but I went with my face first, so I ended up covering, and I got a broken arm, broken bone in my wrist. Those are the only two memories, that bench brawl that I was a part of. Yeah. And breaking my arm, yeah. That's how good hockey was, yeah.
Well, but Tri-Cities, I was going to ask you, I didn't realize, Keith Gretzky was the assistant coach?
Yeah.
Did you have any, interactions with him? Like, Wayne ever show up?
No. They was so short-lived there. I just don't. I remember Keith being a nice guy, but we didn't. Again, I was staying in the hotel. My whole experience there was sideways. Yeah.
Well, so that's the end of your hockey journey, and as a fan, we didn't hear from Mark Raiter again until all of a sudden. In 2004, all of a sudden, I start hearing rumblings of a black and blue hockey enforcer tournament. And all of a sudden, I see one of the names, Mark Raiter. Oh, I'm like, yes, this is good. Mark Raiter. This is going to be great. And I'm like, Link Gates is in it, Derek Parker, Dean Mayrad, Segroy. It's going to be a Prince George. It's going to be a pay-per-view, and it's a hockey fight tournament. We were losing our minds because we were like, this is the greatest thing ever. How did you get involved in that black and blue tournament? And, well, let's talk about it, man, because I love that tournament. How did you get involved in that?
Well, it's kind of funny. I had a friend of mine. He actually just passed on this past fall, or this past spring. Good friend of mine. He was managing a liquor store, and I was visiting there the one day, and he brings up this newspaper clipping. And he goes, Raiter, check this out. And I read this newspaper clipping about this hockey fight tournament. I think at the end of the article, it said whoever the organizers were they were working at, and they're from Brandon or whatnot. I remember tracking down their phone number. And within that hour that I read this article, I'm leaving them a phone message saying that they're making a big mistake by not having Mark Raiter in this tournament. And yeah, by the following day, I get a call from them saying that, yeah, we are making a mistake if we don't have you in here. So, so I remember going back to Mike the next day and looking at him, because there was always talks within some of my friendship group. They would hear about Mark Raiter, the fighter, the hockey fighter, and this and that. So this kind of just solidified it by being, because there were some good names in that tournament.
Yeah.
Right? And so... now that I was accepted in it, some of these guys, like, there was an eye-opening moment where they're like, oh, maybe these stories are true. So I remember going and seeing Mike, and he's the guy that presented me with this tournament, the news of this tournament. So I wanted him to be the first guy to know that I was one of the contenders now. And you know what? It was, well, we were at the one here earlier on this summer. They're fun, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to be tweaked. behind the scenes, but at the end of all, they're a lot of fun, and we had fun. I had a chance to pound some pavement and ended up having a good opportunity to do a lot of local press at that time. And again, this is 20 years ago, and 20 years ago just shows you how things have changed, right? UFC was still kind of within their first decade, if you will.
Yep.
Right. So this whole fighting scene thing wasn't really hugely accepted. I remember doing some John Short. I remember doing an interview with him on his radio program, and a bunch of callers were calling in. And I don't remember one of them being nice. It was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And this is bullshit. And I was just, like I would today. Like, it's 16 guys going out there and, having some fun. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Right? And, so, there's the NHL was dealing already with some high-staking incidences on craniums and stuff like that. So I don't need to name names, but that was during the lockout season, I believe. So we had a hockey fight tournament, and unfortunately my skate blade broke in the first fight, and with size 15 feet, you just can't throw on a size 10 blade and go out there and tippy-toe when you're talking about guys like Dean Mayrand, and Kent Carlson was the first guy that I fought. He was like 272 pounds, right? Yeah. So you can't go into those scenarios already giving them the upper hand, right? So there was no option for me to continue on.
How did you get ready for? Did you take it? Did you get ready for it? Did you take it seriously? Or were you kind of thinking as it's kind of whatever? Or was it like, oh shit, all right, well I better get back to boxing and all that, and let's get back into this.
Well, yeah. So I was managing a pub at that time, so I could kind of manipulate my schedule. And I actually had a young friend of mine that was a welder. And I asked him to weld a heavy bag stand so I could have a heavy bag stand on the ice. So I could kind of, practice that on the ice. Had a couple of guys that were willing to spar. Now, again, so this is early 30s, so I'm removed from any competitive hockey, or I haven't really skated in many years, right? So I had to, get all that back. So yeah, I was getting in shape. Like I said, I was lucky enough to, I was on the front page of the sports, the Sun, Edmonton Sun, the same day that Rafa Torres signed his big contract. He was third page, and I was front page of the sports that day. I remember the guy that wrote the article. He phoned me up the day before. He's like, "Hey, I gotta tell you something. I pulled some strings, but I got you front cover, man." I still have that paper in my closet where it's not collecting dust to this day. So I think most of the guys had fun with it, right? I can't speak for everybody, but I know I had fun with it. Right, and that ultimately is, what these events are about. Guys are throwing their neck on the line, but as a spectator, have fucking fun with it, man. Right, and if you're not going to, well, then turn the fucking channel.
Yeah, well, and of course, one of the guys that took part in it, and I gotta ask because everybody wants to hear his story. Link Gates. What was your first impressions of Link Gates, and what was he like? Just in the locker room with you guys, and a legendary minor league figure, and the crazy stories and everything else. What was that like?
Well, yeah. So I didn't know what I was going to expect. Right, I didn't go in with any expectations really of anybody. But when it came to Link, he was kind of a quiet sort. And now he may not admit this, but again, I was 254 pounds. I was looking pretty lean at that time, and he was in my pool. Him and Jason Reed. Can't remember who the other fourth guy. Yeah, Ken Carlson.
Yep.
That only makes sense, right? Well, I was told by the organizers that when Link heard about me being in that pool, that he wanted to be removed and put into another pool. So, that's one story that I got of Link Gates. So, that's just kind of a notch on my belt, if you will. You know what I mean? Nothing really came about that. But as far as Link Gates, I know that he owes me a fucking shower towel. But I didn't really get a chance to really interact with him too much. He kind of kept to himself, where, most of us other guys, other than Derek, what was Derek's last name?
Parker. Derek Parker.
Parker. Yeah, Derek Parker. He was such an intense guy. He was too good for the rest of us. That was pretty much my experience with Link Gates. Those guys just kind of kept to themselves, and all the rest of us just kind of had a good time.
Yeah, well, you just think Matt Lahonas and Rushton and Dean Mayrad and Segroy and Eddie O'Toole and Trent Potskin and, like you said, Kent Carlson and Stephen Reed. And, man, there was some really good fight. Again, I keep pumping up my own YouTube channel here, but Fourth Line Voice on YouTube, that whole pay-per-view is on my channel. If you want to go back, Jason Bone, there's the other guy that was in it. And there were some great fights in that tournament. Yeah, and man, were we pissed when you broke your skate blade. We're like, oh, are you serious? Because you guys kind of clashed for a second right at the start. You fell down. That's when it broke. And then you tried to fight him again. Like, you tried to continue. And you guys actually had a pretty good exchange. Actually, he caught you with a couple, and then you got him with a really good left, and you guys went down, and then you were just like, I can't. This is skate's done.
You know it very well. That's exactly what happened, right? So after the second time it went down, like I was pretty much balancing the second half of that fight on one foot. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then again, you got a 270-pound man in Ken Carlson that knows how to distribute his weight very well. It just wasn't smart to continue on, man. Right? You know. Yeah. Well, obviously, but it was fun. I thought I fared pretty well for balancing on one skate the second half of the fight. But you know, there's always that little part on you that there's what if? Yeah. What if? Exactly. Right? Yeah. You know, absolutely. And of course, for those that wonder, Dean Mayrad, of course, went on to. I just spoiled the whole thing. I said, I tell them to go watch it, then I tell them who wins. But Dean Mayrad ends up winning it, and it's still a worth watch, even though. That was totally it's still a worth watch. Absolutely. Just go into it with the intention of having fun, man. Just have fun. Right. It is what it is. Yeah. Oh, great fights, and you were saying to me that you had the opportunity to hang out with Dean last couple of weeks ago. Yeah, well, and thank you to you. I got involved with a little bit of a hockey league there that, fortunately, I'm not involved with anymore. Just a side note, if you don't mind me saying this, Darren, for all of you parents, if you're listening, or if anyone can pass on this information with a lot of these road leagues coming up, be very, very careful. Do all of your work. A lot of these recruiting tactics are very unfair, to say the least. Be sure that they're giving you what they're offering you. And first and foremost, make sure that they're providing your young people with a safe environment. So through this hockey experience, I was trying to reach out to Dean for a totally different thing, but I was, okay, well, while I got you, why don't we just catch up here? So, yeah, we have connected. We actually had a coffee, him and his wife and myself. We had a coffee here on Sunday. And, you know, I'm at the place in my life now to where I can really appreciate good people. And Dean and his wife are good people. Yeah, for sure. I'm very, very happy that you gave me the ability to get in contact with him, and and you know, we're looking forward to keeping a pretty good friendship going forward. Excellent. Yeah, no, Dean's a great guy and tough dude, man. Had a hell of a career in the Quebec League, and great storyteller. Again, go back, Fourth Live Voice, check out my interview with Dean Mayrad. He's an interesting hockey career, and he ended up being in a movie, Mike Myers movie with Bob Probert and Justin Timberlake. He tells that whole story, and yeah, he's a good dude, and he's now the owner of Titan Gym in Cold Lake, Alberta, and boxing gym, and actually they have a bare knuckle event coming up here. But yeah, Dean's a really good dude. But well, man, there's the hockey journey, but it certainly doesn't end there, and you know, as far as hockey goes, but you know, and I mean, you've had your ups and downs, and you talked about it on here, and but one of the things you've started up that I want you to, you know, we'll close out here, but I want you to talk about it, the Mammoth Size Foundation, and it's a young kid mental health journey. What led you to start all this, and what's the foundation all about? Well, I guess in order to kind of give the grassroots of the foundation, we got to talk about my mental health struggles. Yep. Right. So, like I said, a lot of my memories in hockey aren't of the greatest. I was bullied. Just old way of thinking. Tear a guy down to build him up, all those types of things. And so I carried a lot of that resentment, a lot of that anger into my adult life, and continued to make bad decisions. Got in, abused alcohol, abused drugs. A lot of those things, bounced from job to job, owned my own business, went bankrupt. Some of these things I don't regret. But a lot of these things I wish that they would have went differently. But that's life, right? I was suicidal on occasion, where I was actually in the Brampton Hospital under watch. So those are all real things. So I was. It was actually about the timing that I look back at it. It was shortly after that hockey fight tournament, the Black and Blue tournament, that my life started going on a severe downward spiral, and really started abusing alcohol. I thought I was good with everything, right? But when you're drinking upwards of on an average of a 2.6 rye a day for almost 20 years, you don't have your shit together. So unfortunately, I became over 500 pounds. Wasn't taking care of myself physically, obviously mentally. I gained type 2 diabetes, and I also, through that, my alcoholism and my type 2 diabetes, I lost a portion of my toe. And for that period of time when I was on antibiotics, I wasn't able to drink. So that decision was made for me. But shortly after I was able to start making my own decision, I started reintroducing alcohol, and I thought I could do it in different ways. But ultimately, on January 2nd of 2023, I had a meeting with a bottle, and that was the last that I ever touched alcohol, so almost 3 years ago now. And that's when I really started on my mental health, my mental journey. During that time, I was unemployed. I decided I needed to do two things if I'm going to take on this new path, being alcohol free. And that was, one, I need to get a gym membership to start getting in a better physical shape. And two, I need to get a part-time job. So all that dead time where I used to drink, I was actually now fulfilling with something else to do. And within, starting to get physically active and starting to look at things differently, I had this idea of raising money for underprivileged kids, if you will, underprivileged young ones. And then through talking with some people, encouragement, and just learning to share my story, starting to feel the positive responses that I'm getting from sharing my story has encouraged me to brainstorm Mammoth-sized Foundation. Mammoth-sized being one word. Now, Mammoth-sized is it's not like a pickup truck or a flight. Mammoth-sized is more about the gesture, right? And so with that Mammoth-sized Foundation, encouraging young people to be interactive. That's all the site is about. We're not doctors. We're not lawyers. We're people here that all have experienced mental health challenges. And it's an interactive site with a few programs that I'm very proud of. Unfortunately, because of life, ups and downs and financial strains, we haven't been able to make the foundation official yet. It is going to be a non-for-profit. There's a few programs that we're very proud of. But yeah, with that, we're just looking to create an interactive environment where we can bring business together, people together. There's a Boasting the Boss page that is very near and dear to me that just allows people to go on there and express how proud of themselves they are. A chance to be narcissistic if you want. Everyone has that little bit of side to them that they need to feel good about themselves. So it's a page that is strictly directed to that. If you, Darren, if you are proud of someone in your life, you can go and post something proud of them, and it's all just positive interaction, if you will. So That's kind of the grassroots of the Mammoth-Size Foundation. There's a friendship program that we have. There's a Mammoth-Size Wish program that we're going to do. Hopefully, like I said, just all these programs, it might seem a little bit ambitious, if you will, if people have a chance to navigate the site at mammothsizefoundation.com. But I believe if we can achieve these ambitious goals, that we just we're going to give ourselves a chance to be more sustainable, set ourselves up for success. No, that's a nice shirt. But yeah, so that's kind of foundation. And so when you look into the foundation, if anyone has a chance to navigate through it, if they're interested in it, and the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because I don't want to say I've gone as far with it that I can, but it's a time to start networking. It's a time to start bringing in people that if they want to get their eyes on it, if they feel that they can share their experiences, they feel that there's something they contribute, if they want to become a partner, then please, let's talk. But right now, again, I'm hoping to, if it happens, great, but we're hoping to maybe launch in May of next year, which gives us a decent window. That being May is Mental Health Awareness Month in Canada, for people that don't know. So, yeah, with that, we're hoping to launch for then. And, just, again, create a positive platform for people to attach themselves to and go from there. Yeah, so, and like I said, when you open up the site, you're never going to see anyone being referred to as a kid or a child. Everyone's referred to as a younger person. Now, I did that for two reasons. One, I don't believe that younger people like being referred to as children or kids. Right, so let's give them a little bit of respect if we want them to participate. And two, I believe we're all younger than somebody, right? You're younger than somebody. I'm younger than somebody. If you're 100, there's somebody out there that's 100 plus a day. So it also leaves us able to reach out to all age groups, right? Eventually, I would like to start a page of positive podcasts, if you will, right? And going full circle to meeting Dean. Like Dean is now starting this Titans for Life, right? Based out of his gym right now. What Titans for Life is for, it's about empowering men to be the best men they can be, right? To help them be wiser, stronger, smarter, a better man. And again, all kind of full circle to mental health. So, even before we launched, Dean and I are talking about maybe, we're nothing's etched in stone yet, but we're talking about maybe kind of working the two programs together, maybe linking towards each other and stuff. So just, Mammoth-Size isn't the foundation. It isn't the place to go, right? It's a place to go. And it's a place that I would like to eventually one day partner up with other foundations and just continually encourage people to be interactive about their mental health, good or bad, right? We need to be able to talk about it and not be afraid to talk about ourselves in a positive way, right? And respect your own story, right? Everyone is just, someone's got to work for me and someone's got to work for me. Yeah, that might be the actual case, but you're not respecting yourself enough. And once you do that, you can start looking at your journey in a different way. And I only speak that from experience, because that's pretty much when I started turning the corners, when I started respecting my own story. So
there we go. No, it's tremendous. And I will put all the links in the description here, folks. And and if anybody listening to this wants to reach out to Mark and that type of thing, I could certainly put you in touch there. And no, man, I mean, I love it. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. And like you said, you've been through the fire, right? And you're out the other side. And anytime that people are willing to share that experience, put themselves out there, that says a lot. And because it's hard to do. No matter how much time goes by, it's always hard to do. And the fact you're doing it is admirable. And it's absolutely, it's a great thing. And you can't, like I said, mental health. I have family members that have battled with it, and so I've seen it firsthand, and what it can do and what it does to a family and that type of thing. So no, it's definitely something that I'm glad is out there. People are now talking about it. It's like we said before, right? Growing up, it's like, people didn't talk about it back then. You kept that to yourself. And now that I'm glad that it's out there, people are talking. There's always more we can do, but it's a start, and people are striding forward with it. So, which is always a positive thing. And, and this is just another step towards that. So, no, very good.
If you don't mind me, Darren, for a quick second here, I'm just going to throw another line in the pond here, if you will. So in order to hopefully expedite this situation, I'm not looking for handouts. Please reach out. You can reach out to Darren, I guess, or you can reach out to info@mammothsizedfoundation.com. I would highly appreciate that. And again, if it's reach out, say hi, whatever. If you have suggestions about the website, whatever, the foundation, please do.
No, absolutely. We will do that. And, but I mean, this certainly, I hope, is not the last time that we'll have you on. We'll track your progress, and we'll get you on, and we'll talk about lots of things. So I enjoyed, when you were in Saskatoon, it was great to hang out with you, and always enjoyed our conversations on the phone, and then like I said, our going out to supper there, and then to come on the podcast and share your story, which it's not, it had some ups but downs, but you were willing to share it, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure the people listening, the fans, will appreciate it as well. So thank you very much for taking the time tonight.
Well, then thank you, Darren. I can only speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure everyone that's participated on your podcast here is very thankful that you're giving us a platform to to be ourselves, share our story, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So again, I really appreciate you, my friend.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And there you go, folks. There's the journey of Mark Raiter. Thanks, guys.
And you people that don't like fighting, how many of you did you walk out and get a coffee while that was on?